published over on dailycoz.com, is titled, "Did Trump Just Light a Fuse He Can't Control?" And, I opened this, and I put this on Blue Sky on Saturday. The Washington Post had two headlines that were pretty much back-to-back. On the app, they were literally back-to-back. The first was, they have chosen not to accept our terms, Vance says. It was about the breakdown of the talks in Islamabad. And the second one was, U.S. intelligence shows China taking a more active role in Iran war. These echo headlines from a century ago, a little more than a century ago, when World War I started. And I'll get to that in just a second. But to set this up, in 2021, China and Iran became military allies. They signed what was described as a broad strategic partnership encompassing economic, diplomatic, and security dimensions. Russia signed a similar agreement in January of last year with Iran. So these three countries are now military allies and formally, officially assisting each other. So hold that thought. And yesterday morning, America's resident madman Donald Trump announced on his Nazi-infested social media site that we, the United States of America, our military, as of 10 o'clock this morning Eastern time, about 2 hours ago, would begin blocking the Strait of Hormuz. That means that all the shipping of oil for China and drones for Russia, which they're using in their war against Ukraine, will be intercepted by us. And this came just hours after the peace talks failed, after, three American grifters with absolutely no diplomatic experience, blew up the talks with Iran. So let me draw the parallels here. 112 years ago this summer, a young Bosnian Serb named Gravilo Princip fired 2 shots in Sarajevo, killing Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. And what followed was World War I, the most violent, deadly war in the history of humanity at that time. There's a backstory here about the 1908 Bosnian crisis and the 1912 Balkan Wars. I won't go into all the details, but basically what had happened is because of these 2 prior wars, in part, all the different countries of Europe had all these interlocking security agreements. And so everybody was armed to the teeth and frankly paranoid about everybody else. So when Franz Ferdinand's assassination gave Austria-Hungary an excuse to punish Serbia, their enemy, they took it, right? Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, but Russia had a treaty with Serbia, so they had to jump in against Austria-Hungary. Germany was allied with Austria-Hungary, and when Russia mobilized, they declared a war on Russia. Then the Franco-Russian alliance dragged France in. And then once the fighting started, Germany's Schlieffen Plan required invading France through neutral Belgium. And when they started moving into Belgium, that triggered England's treaty with Belgium and dragged them into, 6 weeks after the shots in Sarajevo, the world was in the middle of World War I, the deadliest, as I said, the deadliest war in human history. I've been thinking about Sarajevo a lot recently. I've mentioned it a couple of times on this program, but, how did we get here? Well, it started out with Benjamin Netanyahu making 6 trips to the White House, telling Trump and his old family friend, Jared Kushner, whose bedroom he used to sleep in when he visited New York back in the 80s, that Iran was ripe for regime change, that the mullahs were one good strike away from failing, and that history was calling. The New York Times makes it clear that Trump's own CIA director and Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, called this farcical and BS in private. But Netanyahu had an overwhelming reason to want us to invade Iran, and that was that he goes to prison. He was on trial for corruption and bribery and breach of trust, and if he loses that trial, he goes to prison. Well, having a war stopped the court case. It actually, on February 28th, his court case ground to a halt because he issued a declaration of emergency. We're at war with Iran. The court case is going to resume this week, by the way. He couldn't push it much beyond that. But so here's Trump facing a crisis. He's accused of raping a 13-year-old and the whole, all the other stuff around that, Whiskey Pete Hegseth, who just loves war, he doesn't even need an excuse, and Netanyahu, who's trying to stay out of prison. And here we are 44 days later, and Netanyahu is strutting around in southern Lebanon, more popular than ever. Looks like he's going to win the next election. And Trump is posting that he's going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. And he said every vessel in international waters, which, by the way, means, number one, that we're claiming we can stop any vessel anywhere in the world, and number two, that's called piracy. Now, China already has assets in the region. They've got a Type 055 cruiser, a Type 052D destroyer, and a massive surveillance ship right now in the Gulf of Oman, which is right up the road. Chinese satellites have been providing real-time targeting and intelligence to Iran throughout this war. Russia has been running electronic warfare systems and providing Iran with the information necessary to target American people, troops, and resources in the region. And, so these are the active military contributions to the Iranian war right now. So what happened? And so now you've got Iran with treaties with Russia and China, and the United States saying we're going to block anything going through the strait, when 80% of the oil going through that strait is going to China on Chinese flagged vessels. And China has a destroyer in the region to protect Chinese vessels. And then you got Putin, who's like looking at, if he fails in Ukraine or anywhere else, frankly. There's a long history of Russian leaders being assassinated or at least put out to pasture. So, and then of course, Putin just suffered a huge humiliation with Orban's loss in Hungary. So, in 1914, it took 6 weeks until the dogs of all-out war were fully unleashed. This time we're 43 days in, and we have destroyers parked in a mind strait that China needs to stay alive, and Russia would love to see humiliate the United States. This really concerns me. I think that we are possibly at the edge of a World War I kind of scenario, where it just sets off, and we've got a madman in the White House. So please call your members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats. Tell the Democrats to get a damn spine and start impeachment proceedings. I realize, he probably won't be convicted in the Senate. Hold a trial anyway. It'll paralyze what's going on. And tell Republicans to get a spine. 202-224-3121. Congress also has to reassert its constitutional war-making authority. Tell that member of Congress when you call them, or that senator, support the Democratic's war powers resolution. We do not need a nuclear confrontation with Russia and China. And make sure you're registered to vote. Right, this could be our last chance, November 2026. This is our opportunity to do what Hungary did yesterday and kick out, obviously we can't kick out Trump, but we can kick out enough of his sycophants and lickspittles and toadies in the bootlickers in the Congress that we may be able to stop him in some really meaningful and significant ways. Trump blockades Iran as China defies him. Vance walks to a near deal. ICE kidnaps a citizen, and Dershowitz schemes to erase impeachment history. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging America into World War III at the Strait of Hormuz? The U.S. is enforcing a naval blockade of all Iranian ports, and China is pushing back hard. Defense Minister Admiral Dong Jun warned Monday that Chinese ships will keep moving through the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of what Washington says. China has trade and energy agreements with Iran and expects others not to meddle. That's a direct message to the U.S. Navy. China imports roughly half its oil from the Persian Gulf. A sanctioned Chinese tanker has already transited the strait in defiance of the blockade. Iran is threatening to block Gulf state ports in retaliation. The International Energy Agency warns oil demand could fall 80,000 barrels a day while prices race toward $100 a barrel. This is what two nuclear-armed superpowers colliding over oil looks like in real time. Iran offered a deal. Trump walked away and chose war. Before the blockade, Iran offered to suspend its nuclear program for up to 5 years. Trump rejected it. J.D. Vance pushed for a 20-year freeze during marathon talks in Islamabad, the highest level U.S.-Iran negotiations in 47 years. Vance spent 21 hours on the ground there before walking out, saying Iran didn't move far enough. Trump's demands? Dismantle all enrichment facilities, hand over 400 kilos of near-bomb-grade uranium, cut off Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and open the strait. Iran won't do it. The ceasefire is now in jeopardy. Britain refuses to join the blockade. France and the UK are organizing a multinational mission to restore shipping. When you're that close to a deal, why does Trump choose the bomb over the bargaining table? Did federal agents just kidnap an American citizen from his own home? That's what Ramsey County, Minnesota is calling it. ICE agents broke into the St. Paul home of Chongli Thao in January. He's a Hmong American man, a longtime U.S. citizen with no criminal record. All on video. Agents dragged him outside in his underwear in sub-freezing temperature, threw him in a car, and questioned him for over an hour. Then they realized their mistake and brought him home. County Attorney John Choi says the incident involves felonious kidnapping, illegal detainment, and false imprisonment. No probable cause, no warrant. The Department of Homeland Security insists ICE doesn't kidnap people, but the video says otherwise. Federal agents have refused to cooperate with the state investigators. When the government hauls any American from their home without cause, none of us are safe. United Airlines' CEO wants to build a monopoly in the sky. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby has quietly pitched the Trump administration on merging United and American Airlines, creating the world's largest carrier. Together, they already control more than a third of the U.S. domestic market. Combined, they'd crush every competitor. Transportation Secretary and former reality TV star Sean Duffy said the government will look at it, but won't pre-commit, adding that any merged airline might need to shed some assets. Antitrust lawyers say this deal faces enormous hurdles, even under a business-friendly administration. Experts agree. Fewer airlines means higher fares, more fees, and fewer options for working Americans. This is monopoly capitalism in action. A CEO walks into the White House and asks permission to corner the market on American skies, and the administration is seriously entertaining the idea. Your tax bill just revealed who the government really works for. Happy tax day tomorrow. Here's what your money actually bought last year. The National Priorities Project found that the average American taxpayer paid $4,000.49 for war and weapons in 2025. Pentagon contractors, military salaries, nuclear weapons, and foreign military aid, including weapons used in attacks on Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. Compare that to only $2,492 for Medicaid, $124 for school lunches, and just $16 for home heating assistance. Those figures don't include this year's war on Iran, which could add another $130 per taxpayer and climbing. Trump is asking Congress for $1.5 trillion in military spending next year. More than half of Americans can't afford basic necessities. The government shakes us down for endless war while kids go hungry and families struggle to keep the lights on. Will Trump wipe away his impeachment? He's getting help from Epstein's lawyer. Trump is publicly praising the idea of expunging his 2019 impeachment from the record. He's calling the man who proposed it one of the greats. That man is Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard law professor who defended Jeffrey Epstein and helped negotiate the sweetheart deal that kept a serial sex offender out of federal prison. Dershowitz says Trump could go to Chief Justice John Roberts or Congress to reverse the impeachment, arguing that the key whistleblower had a potential bias, gave hearsay testimony, and made false statements. This is something that's never been done. Legal scholars say it can't be done, but Trump is lavishing praise on the idea anyway. When a sitting president tries to erase his own impeachment with help from Epstein's lawyer, authoritarianism isn't approaching, it's already here. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Say testimony and made false. Approaching.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, top of the Tuesday to you. Is Donald Trump the Antichrist? Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to know. I'm serious. I'll tell you about this in just a moment. Also, Iran offered a deal. Trump walked away and chose war. Will Trump wipe away his impeachment? He's now getting help from Epstein's lawyer. United Airlines CEO wants to build a monopoly in the sky. Your tax bill just revealed who the government really works for. Christopher Armitage is going to be with us in the third hour of our program. Criminal cases are now being built against Trump and his cabinet in all 50 states. Guess where it starts? We'll get to that. And Trump is claiming America can make up for Middle East oil and save the global economy. Is he right, or is he lying to us again? We'll get to all of those topics today, but I want to start out with what has just caught fire across social media. It's just incredible. Trump putting this, on his Nazi-infested failing social media site Sunday, which, by the way, was Orthodox Easter, right? So here you have on Orthodox Easter, Donald Trump posting a picture of himself healing a guy who looks suspiciously like Jeffrey Epstein with a horned demon above his head, and a woman who looks like a young Ghislaine Maxwell, kind of praying with them that he will heal Jeffrey. It's just weird, right? And it's, if you haven't seen it, and I'm guessing you have, because it's just all, the press is even dealing with it. Today it's a big story, even though it happened on Sunday. I posted it, or actually I reposted a version that the DemocraticUnderground.com annotated. They did a great job. Posted that over at HartmannReport.com. You can see it's free. You can see it there. And as that image, now there's also a cleaned up version of it where the guy, the figure in the sky above Trump doesn't have horns, which is interesting. But anyway. As Trump's original image with the horns got posted across social media, and then later on in the day, he trash talked the Pope. Right? So on Easter, he's saying, I'm Jesus and the Pope is no good. People are starting to ask, isn't that exactly what the Antichrist would do? This is former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She tweeted the image, complete with the horns, and said, it's more than blasphemy, it's an Antichrist spirit. Mandy Arthur, who's a Christian influencer with a huge online following, tweeted, God, we might have made a mistake and accidentally elected the Antichrist. Send help. But But, is it even possible that Trump actually is the Antichrist? I mean, asking the question literally requires a belief in an actual Christ and Antichrist, which is all over the Bible, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But you can also ask the question, metaphorically or secularly, and just use Christ and Antichrist as stand-ins for good and evil. So then the question becomes not, is Trump the Antichrist, but is Trump evil? And if he is evil, that would make him not the Antichrist, but an Antichrist. And in fact, in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus spoke about this, he spoke in the plural. He said, false prophets, with an S, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravening wolves, right? Would lead people astray and all this kind of stuff. And after warning about these grifters and con artists, Jesus said, as the Pope said a couple days ago, by their fruits you shall know them. So what are Trump's fruits? I mean, does that give us a clue? Yeah, I mean, more than 20 women have accused him of rape. 2 separate juries ruled that he raped E. Jean Carroll. Hundreds of contractors, customers, and employees have accused him of stealing, as have members of his own family. Throughout his first term, he lied over 30,000 times and continues to lie daily. He pits Americans against each other by race, religion, and region, trying to tear the country apart and weaken opposition to his authoritarian rule. He openly encouraged violence against unarmed people at his rallies and encouraged state violence in a speech to chiefs of police, encouraged an assault on members of the press, routinely denigrates female reporters. He tried to overthrow and end our democracy, which some believe was divinely inspired. I mean, Jefferson in the Declaration referred to nature's God. He embraces depraved, ungodly murderers, kleptocrats, and strongman rulers like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. He tried to dismantle the systems designed to keep peace in the world, including the UN, NATO, and the Iran JCPOA. He reaches out to Jesus' followers and then directs them toward bigotry, violence, and hatred. He's replaced Jesus in many white evangelical congregations. He delights in the killing of anti-ICE protesters like Renee Good and Alex Preddy, and tearing children from their parents and putting them in cages. He tried to end Americans' access to life-saving medical care by killing Obamacare subsidies, privatizing Medicare, and gutting Medicaid. He watched on TV like a delighted child as his followers killed 4 police officers, sent 140 others to the hospital, and tried to murder the vice president and Speaker of the House. He lied about COVID, leading to 400,000 unnecessary deaths, although he told the truth to Bob Woodward. There's literally not one single of the 10 commandments that he hasn't broken. He threatened to commit genocide, something we've never seen before. He and Whiskey Pete have celebrated the murder of over 100 people in small boats. And his entire administration is working to cover up crimes committed against young girls by powerful, wealthy, older men. So, what's going on here? I tell the story. I mean, in the Bible, there's only one spot in the entire New Testament where Jesus says, here's how to get into heaven. His disciples got him cornered, basically, on a quiet day and said, how do we get there? And he said, basically, heal the sick, feed the hungry, visit those in prison, clothe the naked, in other words, house the homeless. And they said, but wait a minute, we've never seen you sick or homeless or hungry or any of this stuff. We're free, we're screwed. And he said, chill out, as you do unto the least among these, of these among us, you have done unto me. So, there you go. So is Trump the literal Antichrist? I don't know. But it's a fascinating moment in time. I mean, MAGA does mean magic or sorcerer in Latin, right? He's fooled evangelical followers of Jesus, just like the beast was supposed to do. He put his red hat MAGA mark on their forehead. He consorts with whores and criminals, to use the biblical words. So who knows? What do you think? Is Trump the Antichrist?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Just about 15 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of the news of the day in just a moment. welcome back. Bob in Farmington, Missouri. Hey, Bob, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I had this crazy idea. What if the Iranians declared the war was over, the Strait was open, and they asked for UN inspectors to inspect their nuclear sites, and at the same time they say that they will not attack anyone that doesn't attack them or theirs?
That's sort of what they were offering at the meeting that Vance blew up. I mean, I'm going to get into that in just a minute, but they actually said we'll suspend everything for 5 years. We don't have a problem with this. And Vance said, well, that's not good enough. We want 20 years. After, by the way, after he had a phone call with Trump and Netanyahu. I think Bibi Netanyahu is driving the entire process. Netanyahu came out yesterday and said that he has a daily meeting with Trump and Trump administration officials. It sounds to me like he's running our government, at least in this regard.
Yeah, well, I think he's blackmailing Trump myself.
I think that's entirely possible. Or he's,
he's giving the stuff.
Yeah, or he's exploiting his longtime family relationship with Jared Kushner, but who knows. Bob, thanks for the call. Rondi in Vashon, Washington. Hey, Rondi, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Tom.
Hey.
I was glad to hear your interview with John Pavlovich yesterday. I've read a little of his writings on the what he calls the Jesusectomy, and the excision of Jesus from the MAGA movement. And I really like what he has to say, and I don't know if I have anything to add since I haven't read all of his essays yet, but for quite a while I've been pondering the problem of why the left seems so weak when it comes to confronting the MAGA movement. And I frame it in terms of a God problem. Pavlovich says the evangelical Christians have a Jesus problem, but I think much of the left has a God problem. In other words, I say that much of the left is spiritual but not religious, and the right is religious but not spiritual.
That's a reasonable analysis, actually.
Yeah, spiritual defined as unconditional love, kindness, and forgiveness.
Right.
Which comes from from many different places. I heard it from a Qigong master, actually.
Yeah.
But
it's part of every religion in the world, and it's also part of the moral code of every tribe that's ever been found.
Yes, right. So there are a great many on the left who reject God, not the idea of a great spirit or a divine master, but any use of the word that calls up bad experiences with a lot of organized religion, patriarchy, sin, punishment, hellfire, etc. So that, I think, gets in the way of a powerful white Christian leader who can lead a movement against this cultivation of division, hate, and fear on the right.
Well, Andy Bashir is, of the people who we know are pretty certain are running for president in 2028 on the Democratic side. Andy Bashir is, he was on this program a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago. He's openly talking about Jesus and God and religion as being very important to him, and he's running on basically moral precepts out of the Bible.
That's great. I haven't heard that, and I guess I was thinking in terms of confronting the MAGA movement, we need a white Martin Luther King. Or
regardless of race, we need somebody who will speak that. And Bashir is starting to do that. I think he's trying to position himself as the Christian alternative. Thanks, Rondi. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. So a lot of people are wondering, why is it in America that we can't have nice things? Why don't we have, the same things every other democracy has? Every other democracy in the world has a national health care system of some form, and everybody is covered. We don't. We've got 27 million uninsured people and over 100 million underinsured people. Why is that? Why is it that every other country in the world offers college education very inexpensively, if not for free, and for here you go to debt? Why is it that we've got our public schools crumbling and other countries are doing well? Why is it that we've got Medicare being taken apart by this Medicare Advantage scam and nobody will do anything about it? Well, it turns out the reason why it boils down to one thing, one Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, legalizing the bribery of our politicians. There's a whole rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. I think you're going to find it very, very useful. Check it out.
On Easter night, the image rose, a crown of light, a lion rose, a painted savior on a screen, but something darker in between. They whispered low, don't be deceived by their fruits. You'll believe. Is Trump the Antichrist? Say it loud or say it quiet. If love is gone and truth is bent, what kind of king is heaven sent? If the weak are left to crawl, who's really standing tall? Is Trump the Antichrist, or just a mirror of our fight? The hungry wait, the children cry, mercy fades while flags fly high. The least of these are cast aside, still the faithful justify. Feed the poor, heal the pain, that's the truth he left in plain. Not the power, not the throne, just the love we've never shown. Is Trump the Antichrist, in the dark or in the light? If hate is preached in sacred name, who's the one we really blame? When the truth cuts like a knife, we're judged by how we live our life. No more lies, no disguise. Truth will rise. Truth will rise.
23 minutes past the hour. Iran proposes suspending nuclear activity for up to 5 years. It's starting to come out now what happened in this meeting where 3 completely unqualified Americans went over to Pakistan to negotiate with the Iranians. Steve Witkoff is a real estate developer and a billionaire from New York who has absolutely no government or diplomatic experience. Jared Kushner was a slumlord, and his father went to prison for being a professional grifter, family friend of Benjamin Netanyahu's, and of course the husband of Ivanka Trump. And J.D. Vance he's never really done anything. I mean, he was plucked out. He wrote a book that kind of trash talks hillbillies and sort of pretended he was one when actually he grew up in a Cincinnati suburb, a middle class suburb, but he trash talks his relatives, and that's kind of his claim to fame. And he got picked up by a Silicon Valley billionaire, German-born, South African-educated, and turned into a United States senator and then into the vice president of the United States. But he really has no experience at anything and has never done anything successful in his life. So these three guys go over and blow the deal. Gee, what a surprise. And now we're hearing from Netanyahu himself that every day he's talking either to Trump or senior officials, and that apparently in the middle of this 21-hour marathon negotiating session, the negotiators for America, or J.D. Vance, or some, one or all three of them, had a phone conversation with Trump and Netanyahu. And so anyhow, Iran said, okay, cool, we'll negotiate in good faith. We'll give you 5 years, no nuclear. All good. Open up the Straits of Hormuz. We can just end this thing right now. And Netanyahu or Trump, one or the other, maybe both of them, said to this group, don't go along with it. So now JD comes out and says, nah, 5 years wasn't good enough. We want 20. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is heaping praise on Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is the lawyer who represented Jeffrey Epstein and was a very, very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein's. In fact, the Times wrote that he was the only guy, Epstein was the only guy Dershowitz would trust to proofread his books. He's the guy who got Epstein that sweetheart deal down in Florida where he had to spend the night in jail, but during the day he could go out and abuse little girls and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, Dershowitz is saying, hey, Congress or John Roberts, the Supreme Court, can just expunge, you do away with your two impeachments, your two indictments in the House of Representatives. And Trump is like, oh, isn't this cool? Let's do it. Epstein, by the way, admits having gotten at least one massage at Epstein's New York mansion. And Virginia Giuffre, remember her? She claimed that he attacked her when she was 17. He denies it. Wild stuff. Is Trump the Antichrist? Inquiring minds want to know. I'll pick up your calls right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
The place where we dare to ask, is Trump the Antichrist? And what about J.D. Vance? What does that make him? Stick around. Trump blockades Iran as China defies him. Vance walks to a near deal. ICE kidnaps a citizen, and Dershowitz schemes to erase impeachment history. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging America into World War III at the Strait of Hormuz? The U.S. is enforcing a naval blockade of all Iranian ports, and China is pushing back hard. Defense Minister Admiral Dong Jun warned Monday that Chinese ships will keep moving through the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of what Washington says. China has trade and energy agreements with Iran and expects others not to meddle. That's a direct message to the U.S. Navy. China imports roughly half its oil from the Persian Gulf. A sanctioned Chinese tanker has already transited the strait in defiance of the blockade. Iran is threatening to block Gulf state ports in retaliation. The International Energy Agency warns oil demand could fall 80,000 barrels a day while prices race toward $100 a barrel. This is what two nuclear-armed superpowers colliding over oil looks like in real time. Iran offered a deal. Trump walked away and chose war. Before the blockade, Iran offered to suspend its nuclear program for up to 5 years. Trump rejected it. J.D. Vance pushed for a 20-year freeze during marathon talks in Islamabad, the highest level U.S.-Iran negotiations in 47 years. Vance spent 21 hours on the ground there before walking out, saying Iran didn't move far enough. Trump's demands? Dismantle all enrichment facilities, hand over 400 kilos of near-bomb-grade uranium, cut off Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and open the strait. Iran won't do it. The ceasefire is now in jeopardy. Britain refuses to join the blockade. France and the UK are organizing a multinational mission to restore shipping. When you're that close to a deal, why does Trump choose the bomb over the bargaining table? Did federal agents just kidnap an American citizen from his own home? That's what Ramsey County, Minnesota is calling it. ICE agents broke into the St. Paul home of Chong-Li Thao in January. He's a Hmong American man, a longtime U.S. citizen with no criminal record. All on video. Agents dragged him outside in his underwear in sub-freezing temperature, threw him in a car, and questioned him for over an hour. Then they realized their mistake and brought him home. County Attorney John Choi says the incident involves felonious kidnapping, illegal detainment, and false imprisonment. No probable cause, no warrant. The Department of Homeland Security insists ICE doesn't kidnap people, but the video says otherwise. Federal agents have refused to cooperate with the state investigators. When the government hauls any American from their home without cause, none of us are safe. United Airlines' CEO wants to build a monopoly in the sky. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby has quietly pitched the Trump administration on merging United and American Airlines, creating the world's largest carrier. Together, they already control more than a third of the U.S. domestic market. Combined, they'd crush every competitor. Transportation Secretary and former reality TV star Sean Duffy said the government will look at it, but won't pre-commit, adding that any merged airline might need to shed some assets. Antitrust lawyers say this deal faces enormous hurdles, even under a business-friendly administration. Experts agree. Fewer airlines means higher fares, more fees, and fewer options for working Americans. This is monopoly capitalism in action. A CEO walks into the White House and asks permission to corner the market on American skies, and the administration is seriously entertaining the idea. Your tax bill just revealed who the government really works for. Happy tax day tomorrow. Here's what your money actually bought last year. The National Priorities Project found that the average American taxpayer paid $4,000.49 for war and weapons in 2025. Pentagon contractors, military salaries, nuclear weapons, and foreign military aid, including weapons used in attacks on Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. Compare that to only $2,492 for Medicaid, $124 for school lunches, and just $16 for home heating assistance. Those figures don't include this year's war on Iran, which could add another $130 per taxpayer and climbing. Trump is asking Congress for $1.5 trillion in military spending next year. More than half of Americans can't afford basic necessities. The government shakes us down for endless war, while kids go hungry and families struggle to keep the lights on. Will Trump wipe away his impeachment? He's getting help from Epstein's lawyer. Trump is publicly praising the idea of expunging his 2019 impeachment from the record. He's calling the man who proposed it one of the greats. That man is Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard law professor who defended Jeffrey Epstein and helped negotiate the sweetheart deal that kept a serial sex offender out of federal prison. Dershowitz says Trump could go to Chief Justice John Roberts or Congress to reverse the impeachment, arguing that the key whistleblower had a potential bias, gave hearsay testimony, and made false statements. This is something that's never been done. Legal scholars say it can't be done, but Trump is lavishing praise on the idea anyway. When a sitting president tries to erase his own impeachments with help from Epstein's lawyer, authoritarianism isn't approaching, it's already here. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
They shout about the First Amendment, wave the flag and pound the pulpit loud.
Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. So what's on your mind today? Let's pick up some calls here. George in Cripple Creek, Virginia. Hey, George, what's up?
Hey, Tom, how you doing? Interesting article in Pravda on April 10th by Vladimir Orlov. Iran attacked the Ukraine UAV base in the UAE for the first time, killing 21 Ukrainian drone experts. And the Iranian missiles turned the Ukrainian base into scrap metal and zinc coffins. Wow. And the sheikhs are issued an ultimatum for Ukraine to withdraw all the air defense experts. All 5 facilities Ukraine was supposed to protect were destroyed, and Ukrainian anti-aircraft shells ripped into facades of 2 skyscrapers in the Emirates. And the article says there's 3 reasons why Zelensky sent those Ukrainian experts and drone facilities into the Emirates. 1, he wanted to turn Ukraine into a global hub for mercenaries willing to die for NATO and the Gulf states.
This Ukraine is according to the Russian propaganda, right?
Yeah, basically, but I'll get to the source, and then hoping to trade soldiers' lives for, Ukraine or Arab investment in oil, and to curry favor with the U.S. Ukraine was going to be the loyal dog ready to jump on Iran's back at the first whistle, and Trump said the last thing we need is Ukrainian aid in anything. And this report was in an Italian site called L'Anti Diplomatico. That's the only one I could find, and of course Ukraine and UAE are denying reports. And it was listed on Twitter, but I'm not a member, so I couldn't track down anything on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't, find it confirmed anywhere else.
Do you think it's credible?
I don't know. I'd like to see another source. Like I said, the Ukraine and UAE denied the report, so
yeah.
I'll have to do some further. I didn't find anything else to confirm that report other than that Italian source.
Right. I'll try to remember to ask Phil about that. The day after tomorrow?
Yeah,
Thursday.
Definitely. I'd like to see Mr. Idner's whether he's heard anything about that and whether that report is true or not.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to get the Russian perspective on all this. I'm sure Putin's laughing up his sleeve of, the leaky blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah. Well, given that you read Russian and you track the Russian media, I'm curious, George, how are they dealing with Orban's collapse?
They're saying it's a disaster and all that, but, since Orban was Putin's closest friend in Europe and the EU, and it's interesting that Magyar, the guy that won, says he's going to unblock, EU military aid to Ukraine, etc. But, there's one bottom line that I think is going to be hard to overcome. Hungary is completely dependent on Russia for its oil and gas supplies, so
oh, really?
I don't know how they're going to get any additional gas supplies, but I saw an article that said Zelensky was going to repair that Druzhba pipeline. So until Hungary gets alternate sources for energy, they're still dependent on Putin.
Does Hungary share a border with Ukraine? Forgive my geographical ignorance there.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It's part of the old Austro-Hungarian Empire. Galicia was the Austrian province that was mainly, part of Ukraine. Was part of Ukraine then. Mm-hmm. But basically Ukrainian speakers there, so they do share a border.
Fascinating. Wow.
There's still a couple of 100,000 ethnic Hungarians in Ukraine, and Orban was always complaining that Zelensky was, depriving the ethnic Hungarians of their civil rights, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. I mean, it's Magyar comes into office in May, I believe. I'm not sure what day in May.
Right. Yeah. Mm.
Do you know the date?
Yeah, but he had an overwhelming victory. So I guess after 16 years, the Hungarians decided they didn't need Orban and his repression of free speech and corruption and oligarchs running the show and all that.
Well, his son, Orban's son, has apparently fled to the United States with his wife. He's like.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Yeah, I guess you better get while the getting's good.
Yeah. He was like the 5th richest man in Hungary now, and
I wonder how he got all that money. Need we ask, right?
Well, he got it by Rachel Maddow opened her show with this last night. He got it by taking over a company that manufactures and sells lamp posts, street lights. And then basically every city in the country had to buy their light posts from him, and suddenly he was the richest guy in the country. So I'm sorry, I said son.
When you have a monopoly on lights and lighting supplies, it's easy to get rich quick.
Yeah, there you go. I said son. I meant son-in-law. He's married to Orban's daughter. Yeah, but these guys have got to be scurrying around like rats right now. I mean, they've got basically a month to get their act together, to clean things up and get out of the way, because Magyar says that he's actually going to start prosecuting people, and for corruption.
Well, I hope he does. Definitely, after 16 years of corruption and all that. Yeah.
And we
let us see the guys in handcuffing in the big house. That'll send a message.
There you go. I agree. George, thanks for the call and thanks for the update on the information.
And keep up the good work and enjoy listening to you on Sirius XM.
Thank you, George. Good talking to you. Nicholas in San Cristobal, Mexico. Hey, Nicholas, what's on your mind today?
Long time, Tom. I've been in Kentucky for the last 5 weeks and now back home a week. And George and you just stole a lot of my thunder here. I was going to ask if I could talk about what happened in Hungary, and I hope you'll let me for a minute.
Please, go for it. It's a big deal.
I hope not to sound too ranty, but I probably will. Kudos to the Hungarians for throwing off 16 years of autocratic rule. Viktor Orban, the man who Project 2025 was modeled after, who was set up as not one of, but the model for Donald Trump and MAGA and Project 2025, lest we forget. If they could do it and throw their Humpty Dumpty crashing to the ground, shattered in pieces, and never to be put back together again, we can do it too. I'm suggesting we now bring on not the Hunger Games, but the Hungary Games, and match them vote for vote, and exceed their turnout, and do an equally gigantic landslide F-U to Trump and his now creant children, all of the people he's stuck in power, to do nothing but grift against our very nation, to undo our Constitution and our very way of life, and all that we've worked so long and so hard for, just as the Hungarians just did it, and just as all of the European is now celebrating along with them. We can do it. They did it. It can be done. It is not true, as Rachel, you just alluded to last night, said, their myth is that they are omnipotent and going to be in power forever. It ain't true. They can be toppled just as easily as anybody else can if we turn out in the numbers necessary. So we must.
And then they can be investigated and prosecuted.
I love the fact that his son-in-law has now fled to the United States. But how embarrassing, how mortifying for us. He should have been stopped at the border, along with all of his money that he has stolen directly with the help.
Well, there's a candidate for an ICE detention camp.
Huh?
There's a candidate for an ICE detention camp.
Honest to God,
Orban's son-in-law.
It's easy for us to joke about, but I am not joking.
Yeah.
And as Hungary has just said, as Magyar has just said, they're going to prosecute. We need to also, no more Mr. Nice Democrats.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just politics. It's a difference of opinion. No,
it's
not. This is crime versus non-crime. These are criminals. We have to go after them and put their sorry butts in prison.
Yeah.
Every last one of them.
I agree. Louise and I used to live in Europe, and we've always wanted to do one of those river cruises, but most of them go through Hungary, and are some of the really cool ones.
Of course, they go straight down the Danube River.
Right, and I was always worried that I'd get arrested if we went through Hungary or stopped in Hungary. But now, hey, we can look at doing that. So
you're free to do it, and I did it about 20 years ago, and yes, do it. It is a gorgeous tour.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Was that?
It's unbelievable. It's far better than you're imagining. I mean, they stop at so many beautiful places along the way.
Did you go with Viking?
I went on Viking.
Yeah, I've heard that's who we went to Antarctica with. They're just spectacular. Anyhow,
it was
Nicholas.
Costly. It was a little bit costly, but hey, it was worth every penny.
Oh yeah, memories are all you've got. Nicholas, thank you for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
45 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls in just a moment. Stay with us. And welcome back. Paul in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I think it was 1965 when the Beatles came to New York City, and I think that was when they played the Shea Stadium concert that John Lennon said, "We're more popular than Jesus Christ," and America really didn't take kindly to that.
I remember. Yeah. We are
Yeah,
dating
people
ourselves
were really,
here, Paul. But I remember.
Yeah, I remember.
We were youngins. But...
Yeah, I was. But that was the last concert that the Beatles played live because it was too crazy. But he said later, "I didn't mean we were Jesus Christ. I meant that we were as popular or more popular than Jesus Christ these days." Yeah.
Well, and he explained that he meant it actually as a lament, not as a boast.
Yeah. Well, he was in a way prophetic, however, in 1969 in the song "Come Together," where he utters the words "shoot me" in the beginning, and then that came true 11 years later. But Donald Trump, I can't assign Donald Trump the power of the Antichrist or the power of Satan. I think Donald Trump is just a boorish jerk.
Yeah.
The Antichrist, by the way, comes in three different ways in the New Testament. The first one is in 2 Thessalonians, where it addresses the idea of when will the second coming, when the Son of Man will return, and because the question was in 1 Thessalonians, what of us have already died? And in 2 Thessalonians, because Christ hadn't come back, he said, and the 2 Thessalonians is not one of the Gospels or one of the epistles that scholars think was written by Paul, but it says an Antichrist must first emerge. It doesn't describe what the Antichrist does. But in 1 John, the epistle, it says the Antichrist is the one that denies that Jesus was a man of flesh and blood. And then there's another allusion to the Antichrist in Revelation that is, again, the kind of on the good and evil spectrum. So in either case, Donald Trump doesn't have that much. I don't give him that much power. I don't think he's a 5D chess player. I think he's an idiot and a jerk that a lot of people who aren't much smarter voted for, and now they're reaping they're seeing this is what we get when the billionaires are in control. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
When the billionaires are in control, this is what we get.
And
so
the Nepo babies.
Let's just take it as that.
And the Nepo babies. I mean, he's a Nepo baby. He was born, with a silver spoon in his mouth. These,
exactly.
It's like God save us from the Nepo babies. That's why Teddy Roosevelt, got the inheritance tax pushed through. Actually, he started the process. I don't think the actual tax went into place until 1913 or something like that. Do you remember?
Income tax, 1913. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but that's same as the 17th. Yeah, but let's not overassign the power of Donald Trump. Let's just put it politically what it is. This is what you get when the morbidly rich have their way in America and the billionaires take control.
Yeah,
this is what you get.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing in Hungary, and the Hungarians said, "Enough, no, ain't going to go there anymore."
Yeah.
And I think America is going to do the same thing in November. I think the GOP is in for a shock. Paul, thank you. It's always great hearing from you. Appreciate the call. We'll be back. It's 49 and a half minutes past the hour. Stick around. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Way back in 1964, when Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Republicans started this rant about how the election of 1960, Jock Kennedy stole that election, and there's voter fraud in America. And it became a thing. They started this thing called Operation Eagle Eye. William Rehnquist was running it in Arizona, trying to intimidate Hispanics and African Americans into not voting, essentially. They have now used this claim that non-citizens are voting, this voter fraud claim, in virtually every red state to make it harder to vote, to purge people off the voting rolls, to make people's votes not counted with their exact signature matches. It's a scam. It's a grift that they've been running for 60 years, and the American media won't call them out on it. There's a whole piece about it called Trump and the GOP's Big Lie 2.0 over at HartmannReport.com. Please check it out. You'll find it fascinating. Welcome back. 9 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Tom in Denver. Hey, Tom, what's up?
Tom, hey, I'm scared of what's happening to my country, but along the lines of, have you talked at all about the Eric Swalwell stuff?
Not much. I mean, it's a tragedy. The guy obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but it certainly appears that the guy was a predator, and not the worst kind, but pretty bad. And he's going down in flames. Credible. Yeah, it's a tragedy, I think, for him and for the country.
And I mean, I thought he was a rising star, and I also thought he was gay, not for any reason other than just his demeanor.
Huh. My gaydar, well, I'm not gay, so my gaydar is probably dysfunctional. But it never got tripped by Eric Swalwell. But this is kind of, from what I've seen, this is kind of the story of the good-looking jock who gets all the girls and grows up thinking he's entitled. I mean, it's a sad story, but it's not an unusual one. Yeah, although we don't know that JD is hound dogging, but or whatever you want to call this. But it's a tragedy for the women who are involved too. So, anyway,
I just wanted to bring that up, and I didn't hear anybody talking about it, and I don't know whether there's nobody to step in and take his place. I thought he was going to be the next senator of California.
Yeah, I did too, and he certainly had presidential ambitions, and all that's been flushed now, and there's hopefully there's a lesson there for others who may follow. It's Gary Hart got caught up with this kind of stuff. Donald Trump obviously, but it didn't hurt him. If you're a Republican, it's fine. You could, 2 different juries found that Donald Trump committed rape or something very close to it, sexual assault. And the judge said it was rape, and yet the Republicans are still, oh yes, Donald, we'll do whatever you want. But the Democratic Party doesn't tolerate this, and that's a good thing. Tom, thanks for the call. David in San Francisco. Hey, David, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I called and I mentioned that we've got to come up with Trump crashes the economy. We've got to come up with another form of money. Because they're just going to become worthless right away. If it was in charge of the Treasury, and we got to use Treasury.
Yeah, your phone is popping in and out there, David. But your point that the dollar is in trouble. I think the dollar is still the world's reserve currency, although it has lost 10% of its value since COVID. And it's a tough one. It's a tough one. David, I
10% a little bit.
Yeah, your phone is breaking up badly, David. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to move along. D in Southside Chicago. Hey, D, what's up?
Hello, Tom. I hope you're well. I just wanted to key back on something you said about, this traitor called Donald Trump being the Antichrist. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is that he has provided financial incentive for another country to prosper, i.e. Russia, while that same country is involved in providing information to a country to kill American troops.
Yeah. You could. That's certainly moral treason, if not legal treason. Yeah, I think that's and whether he's the Antichrist or an Antichrist, or I posit him as kind of a secular Antichrist, just a bad person.
I can't even touch that because I can't tell you what's, beyond what we can see and hear. But what I can tell you is, like, if we focus on those salient facts and not even get distracted and just look at what's in front of us, it's already enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. Dee, thank you. Well said. Nikki in Chicago. Hey, Nikki, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I just was curious, the new guy that's coming into Hungary, if he today, I think, came out and said that Orban was stealing money from the government to pay for CPAC.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's a way they can force him out sooner than May or whenever he's supposed to take, the new guy should take office.
Yeah, I need to look that up. It is May. I just don't know if it's the beginning, middle, or end of May. But yeah.
Or maybe he'll just leave and take all his money because he's afraid of being held liable or criminally.
Yeah. Well, you've got Orban's son-in-law fleeing the country. I'm guessing that there's going to be more of them who leave, and it'll be interesting to see if Magyar puts together like a Truth and Reconciliation Commission like South Africa did, or whether he actually, like after World War II, the Germans did, actually starts prosecuting his own people. Well, actually, it was mostly the International Criminal Court that did that. But
could we put one of those together, please?
Yes, I am ready to promote the hell out of any Democrat running for president who says that if he's elected, he's going to prosecute the people who committed crimes inside the Trump administration, including Donald and his kids.
That'd be great.
I mean, it's just.
Thanks, Tom, for all you.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. And enough is enough. The corruption. It's the corruption, stupid. I mean, that's really the bottom line, and that's I think what the Hungarians were objecting to. I mean, sucking dry their economy, making billionaires in Hungary. Same thing is happening here. Our GDP is crashing. Our minimum wage is still frozen. We can't afford. I mean, it's terrible. All right, we'll be right back with more of the news of the day. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Trump blockades Iran as China defies him. Vance walks to a near deal. ICE kidnaps a citizen, and Dershowitz schemes to erase impeachment history. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging America into World War III at the Strait of Hormuz? The U.S. is enforcing a naval blockade of all Iranian ports, and China is pushing back hard. Defense Minister Admiral Dong Jun warned Monday that Chinese ships will keep moving through the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of what Washington says. China has trade and energy agreements with Iran and expects others not to meddle. That's a direct message to the U.S. Navy. China imports roughly half its oil from the Persian Gulf. A sanctioned Chinese tanker has already transited the strait in defiance of the blockade. Iran is threatening to block Gulf state ports in retaliation. The International Energy Agency warns oil demand could fall 80,000 barrels a day while prices race toward $100 a barrel. This is what two nuclear-armed superpowers colliding over oil looks like in real time. Iran offered a deal. Trump walked away and chose war. Before the blockade, Iran offered to suspend its nuclear program for up to 5 years. Trump rejected it. J.D. Vance pushed for a 20-year freeze during marathon talks in Islamabad, the highest level U.S.-Iran negotiations in 47 years. Vance spent 21 hours on the ground there before walking out, saying Iran didn't move far enough. Trump's demands? Dismantle all enrichment facilities, hand over 400 kilos of near-bomb-grade uranium, cut off Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and open the strait. Iran won't do it. The ceasefire is now in jeopardy. Britain refuses to join the blockade. France and the UK are organizing a multinational mission to restore shipping. When you're that close to a deal, why does Trump choose the bomb over the bargaining table? Did federal agents just kidnap an American citizen from his own home? That's what Ramsey County, Minnesota is calling it. ICE agents broke into the St. Paul home of Chong-Li Thao in January. He's a Hmong American man, a longtime U.S. citizen with no criminal record. All on video. Agents dragged him outside in his underwear in sub-freezing temperature, threw him in a car, and questioned him for over an hour. Then they realized their mistake and brought him home. County Attorney John Choi says the incident involves felonious kidnapping, illegal detainment, and false imprisonment. No probable cause, no warrant. The Department of Homeland Security insists ICE doesn't kidnap people, but the video says otherwise. Federal agents have refused to cooperate with the state investigators. When the government hauls any American from their home without cause, none of us are safe. United Airlines' CEO wants to build a monopoly in the sky. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby has quietly pitched the Trump administration on merging United and American Airlines, creating the world's largest carrier. Together, they already control more than a third of the U.S. domestic market. Combined, they'd crush every competitor. Transportation Secretary and former reality TV star Sean Duffy said the government will look at it, but won't pre-commit, adding that any merged airline might need to shed some assets. Antitrust lawyers say this deal faces enormous hurdles, even under a business-friendly administration. Experts agree. Fewer airlines means higher fares, more fees, and fewer options for working Americans. This is monopoly capitalism in action. A CEO walks into the White House and asks permission to corner the market on American skies, and the administration is seriously entertaining the idea. Your tax bill just revealed who the government really works for. Happy tax day tomorrow. Here's what your money actually bought last year. The National Priorities Project found that the average American taxpayer paid $4,000.49 for war and weapons in 2025. Pentagon contractors, military salaries, nuclear weapons, and foreign military aid, including weapons used in attacks on Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. Compare that to only $2,492 for Medicaid, $124 for school lunches, and just $16 for home heating assistance. Those figures don't include this year's war on Iran, which could add another $130 per taxpayer and climbing. Trump is asking Congress for $1.5 trillion in military spending next year. More than half of Americans can't afford basic necessities. The government shakes us down for endless war, while kids go hungry and families struggle to keep the lights on. Will Trump wipe away his impeachment? He's getting help from Epstein's lawyer. Trump is publicly praising the idea of expunging his 2019 impeachment from the record. He's calling the man who proposed it one of the greats. That man is Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard law professor who defended Jeffrey Epstein and helped negotiate the sweetheart deal that kept a serial sex offender out of federal prison. Dershowitz says Trump could go to Chief Justice John Roberts or Congress to reverse the impeachment, arguing that the key whistleblower had a potential bias, gave hearsay testimony, and made false statements. This is something that's never been done. Legal scholars say it can't be done, but Trump is lavishing praise on the idea anyway. When a sitting president tries to erase his own impeachment with help from Epstein's lawyer, authoritarianism isn't approaching, it's already here. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome back to the second hour of our program. So, a couple of years ago, I published a book, The Hidden History of American Monopoly, or Monopolies. And in fact, Ralph Nader wrote the foreword for it and said that it was the best, most easily read book on monopolies out there, which was high praise from a guy who understands monopolies. Monopolies are when you have a small number of companies who control so much of a marketplace that they can basically screw customers, screw their own employees, and walk away with huge piles of money. I mean, this is the bottom line. It got really bad in the second half of the 19th century, post-Civil War era, as America really began industrializing. The railroads, during Abraham Lincoln's administration, you had the Golden Spike. It was a little after the Civil War, I think, that they finally completed that with the Golden Spike. But Lincoln gave away millions and millions of acres of land, tens of millions of acres of land to the railroads to build railroads that, he felt were like important for the war effort, for the Civil War effort. And then, it continued from there. And I think it was in the 1870s that the gold spike was driven. In that famous painting, there's a picture of, pictured in that famous painting is, I forget his first name, Sanderson, this big bear of a man who was the lawyer who argued on behalf of the railroads in the Santa Clara County case in 1886 before the Supreme Court, where the head note said that corporations are persons. But I digress. The problem of monopolies got so bad in the 1860s, 70s, particularly the 70s, 80s, and 90s, 1880s, that in 1891, the Sherman Antitrust Act was passed. Senator Sherman was a Republican senator from Ohio who was, furious about this. The oil monopolies had locked up the oil business. The match monopolies had locked up the match business. The railroad monopolies had locked up the rail business. You could just go on and on and on. The food monopolies, et cetera. And so they passed this law saying that you can't do that. And it didn't get enforced for another generation. It was in the 1900s that Teddy Roosevelt started really pushing for this. And it was really actually William Howard Taft who followed Roosevelt, the second of the two progressive Republican presidents from the previous decade. But we started busting up the monopolies, and we broke up Standard Oil of Ohio into, as I recall, 26 or 28 separate companies, for example. And that breaking up the monopolies and preventing the formation of new monopolies is one of the reasons why that period from the Republican Great Depression right up until the 1980s, we were able to have an American middle class. You had small local businesses that became the backbones of local communities and local employment, and they paid well. I mean, the boss had to look his employees in the face every day. You had the union movement that was legalized, but mostly, monopolies were held in check. And then in 1983, Ronald Reagan, on the advice of his Secretary of Commerce, told the Department of Labor, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the SEC, the DOL, and one other agency, forgive me, the Department of Justice, to stop enforcing the antitrust laws in the United States, essentially. And those of you who are old enough to remember the 80s, the Reagan era, there was this explosion of what they called mergers and acquisitions, M&A. There was guys like Michael Milken called himself an M&A artist. The chainsaw Al Dunlop from Sunbeam, Jack Welch from General Electric. They're just buying up companies, smashing them together, firing as many people as possible, and creating giant monopolies. And nobody's pushed back on this. Since that happened. I mean, that was in the 80s, and the Democratic presidents that we had, Clinton and Obama and Biden, Obama and Biden actually stopped some monopolies, and Biden got really good about this. Lina Khan, as the head of the Federal Trade Commission, was actually looking at breaking up some monopolies. They were going to try and break up Google and some of these other, but she's gone now. In fact, Trump is talking about prosecuting her. And so we've got this Republican administration. So we're back to the era of monopolies. And like I said, when you have monopolies in an industry, and there's basically, when it's multiple companies involved in kind of a monopoly status, like you've only got 4 major airlines in the United States that control about 80% of all the air travel. It's not called a monopoly, it's called a monopsony, but the effect is the same. It's a cartel, essentially. So now the news comes out that Scott Kirby, who's the head of United Airlines, wants to, or is floating the idea, apparently has floated it in person to Donald Trump. I don't know, did you give him a gold bar? Probably. That United should be able to merge with American, which would create an absolutely massive airline. Right now, the 4 airlines, United, American, Delta, and Southwest, control 74% of all U.S. passenger capacity. And that would become, the big 4 would become the big 3. And the people who would be screwed, well, it would be the unions, the rival airlines, and the airports, but mostly the traveling public. Because the choices, right now, United and American compete on a whole bunch of routes. And that competition will go away. Well, what happens when competition goes away? Competition is the first rule of genuine so-called free market capitalism. You can't have functioning capitalism without competition. And monopolies do away with competition. So, we've got this former reality TV star, Sean Duffy, who Trump put in charge of the transportation department because he looks good on television. And he said, let me get the exact quote. He said, "Is there room for some mergers in the aviation industry? Yeah, I think there is. So get ready. Next spring, our family is taking a family vacation, and Louise and I have to fly. And I booked the flights over the weekend, and the price has almost doubled on that route. And this is within the United States. And it's amazing. It's just amazing. That's almost certainly because of the fuel, because, airline fuel is getting short now because and I'm going to get into this in the third hour of the program, but because of the war in Iran and the blockading of the Gulf of, the Straits of Hormuz. So we'll see how this shakes out, but if you're talking to your lawmakers on a regular basis, you might want to raise this. Let's start enforcing the antitrust laws again, the anti-monopoly laws. There are 3 major ones on the books. There's the Sherman Antitrust Act of 91, maybe it was 81. There's the Clayton Antitrust Act, which I believe was 1924, and then there's the Antitrust Act of 1956. And, they're all still on the books. It's just that, the Department of Justice and the FTC and SEC have to enforce them. And that, like I said, has not been happening since 1983 in any kind of meaningful way, with the exception of Lina Khan's supervision at the Federal Trade Commission. So how much are you paying for war? Tomorrow is tax day. Let's talk about that after the break, and I'll pick up your calls. Stay with us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back. Shane in Boulder, Colorado. Hey, Shane, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I just wanted to mention something that not a lot of people are aware of currently, and this is a little country called Nepal. And Nepal is situated between Tibet, which is China, and India. and it's a tiny little country with about 30 million people. And they just successfully overthrew their government and to a more progressive liberal government. They had successful elections.
When?
Before that, they had a prime minister for about 18 years and a Maoist insurgency.
Mm-hmm.
And before that was a monarchy.
Yeah.
So they've been a monarchy forever.
So when did this overthrow happen, Shane?
This happened when Generation Z, Gen Z in September, last September, the government tried to shut down all social media. So a lot of the youth in Nepal depend on social media. That's what they do. It's, not a lot of employment, not a lot of things to do in Nepal, especially in Kathmandu.
So this was last fall, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So the protest happened, and they actually went to Oli's, the prime minister, and Dioba, the president of Congress. They actually made it to their house and pulled them out of their house, and actually arrested them, beat them, and arrested them.
Whoa!
And so the government was toppled, and then they installed an interim prime minister, and for about 5 months, they had an interim prime minister, and then they just recently, about 3 weeks ago, had a successful election and elected Balan, the new prime minister. He's a very young prime minister. He's about 38 years old. He's a rapper. He's a civil engineer.
Oh, I see. I remember the story on this. Yeah, I read a news story about that.
Yeah. And so the next day, as soon as he was installed, or inaugurated, rather, the next day, they arrested the former prime minister and the president of Congress.
Yeah. I mean, France did this too, the Sarkozy. Yeah. I think he's in jail right now. I mean, it's not like this is an unprecedented thing, and it's not like it only happens in small countries,
Right. Yes. And so Generation Z, they're definitely celebrating right now. They've had a successful election. Mm-hmm. Nepal has been a monarchy forever, a Hindu monarchy. And their kingdom was assassinated or, a massacre back in 2002. So that's what it became a government, and the Maoists were part of the government. The insurgency, they actually had to make an agreement to become part of the government in Nepal.
Interesting.
And so that's been going on forever for the last 20 years.
You been there, Shane?
Pardon?
Have you been there?
Oh, yeah, I've lived there. My wife is from Nepal. I go every year.
Okay. Yeah, because isn't there a major industry taking people up into the Himalayas?
Yes. That's probably the biggest source of industry. The income is tourism. Yeah, yes, because there's no exports. Yeah. Nepal doesn't really do exports. It's handicrafts maybe, but there's no minerals. There's no oil. There's nothing to export from Nepal, so they have to make do with tourism.
Shane, I got to run, but thanks for the info and thanks for the update. That's I appreciate it. Thank you. Hearing from somebody who's actually been there, that's remarkable. 19 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. Stay with us. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So MAGA Mike and the Republicans want a religious test for people running for public office. They want to know that you are sufficiently Christian to be worthy of being elected. Right. MAGA Mike is one of these 7 mountain evangelicals. There are 7 domains where these dominionists believe that we need to have religion completely take them over. Education, religion, family, business, government, military, arts and entertainment, and the media. Seriously. This is not what Jesus was preaching when he said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God what is God's. This is the opposite, in fact, of what Jesus was teaching. It's the opposite of Matthew 25, where Jesus said the only way to get to heaven is by feeding the hungry, healing the sick, helping the poor. This is counter-Christian, anti-Christian, in fact. In fact, I think you could say it is the Antichrist's work. There's a piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. 20 minutes past the hour, I had another story here for you, and then I'll pick up your calls. This is tomorrow is tax day, right? It's the day that the hard deadline for a lot of people today is, got to get it in today, got to have it postmarked, all that kind of stuff. But really, tomorrow is the day, April 15th. And so, everybody's doing their analysis of this, and this is one that was done by the Institute for Policy Studies, which is, basically just a think tank. And they note that around half of Americans are struggling just to meet their basic necessities. And Congress, the Republican-controlled Congress, with not one single Democratic vote, passed this big ugly bill that gave tax cuts for the rich, the morbidly rich, slashed health insurance, slashed food assistance for millions of Americans, and added billions of new spending for war and mass deportations. And it turns out that the average American spent about 50 days working and paying taxes last year just to feed the war machine, and 23 days just to pay for the Pentagon contractors and their CEOs, who on average make around $25 million a year. $1 million every other week. You get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Every single paycheck is $1 million if you're a defense contractor. Which, of course, is why Eric and Don Jr. are now in the defense contracting business, selling drones to the United States government. But anyhow, the average taxpayer last year, these are 2025 numbers, of course, because we don't have this year's numbers yet. And so this does not include the war in Iran. But the average taxpayer last year paid $4,049 for weapons in war. The next highest expenditure was Medicaid. The average taxpayer paid about $2,500 toward Medicaid. Medicaid provides health care to 1 in 5 Americans. It's a major, Medicaid, if we were to create a single-payer health care system, everybody says Medicare for all, Medicaid for all could work too. School lunches and other nutritional programs, the average taxpayer paid $124 to support all these programs that Republicans love to say are corrupt and welfare and fraud and waste and all that kind of crap. And the Postal Service, you kicked in $19. And given what we've spent so far on Iran, next year when we look back on this year, so far the average American taxpayer has spent around $130 on Iran. So we need to fix our Congress. And we need to reverse Citizens United so that the defense industry can no longer buy our members of Congress. It's just wrong. It's got to stop. So what's on your mind today? Leslie in Baltimore. Hey, Leslie, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I want to talk about the Swalwell situation.
Sure. Guy's toast.
But first, man, I like to preface my comment by saying that no mean no. End of discussion. And I feel like when somebody do something like that to another person is wrong. But what gets me is seem like, especially nowadays, man involved always has to take the heaviest hit on that. And I feel like it's not fair because the young lady involved, she is just as complicit, in my opinion, because she was in the man's company. Not one time, but 2 times.
I get that, and I've heard those arguments. I still think that, he was in the power position. He was older. He was offering to be her mentor.
That's an assumption that everybody makes, that these girls is doing this. Not to say that, look, man, I'm not trying to justify nothing. I'm just saying,
his judgment was terrible. He never should have said, sure, I'll go to a bar with you. I'll go to 3 bars with you, I guess is what they did. And now there's other accusers coming forward, by the way.
She should have known from experience what he was made of.
Yeah, well.
And so when she found out what he was made of the first time, then why would she voluntarily go hang around that guy again, getting drunk?
Leslie,
Only
you said
thing
you're
I'm
not
saying-
defending Swalwell, but it sounded to me like
I'm
you're
not defending anything. I'm only
Swalwell.
making an observation. And I'm not, again, I preface my statement by saying no means no.
Yeah.
But then you can't go on the lines then with a state suit on either. And if you elect to walk into a lines den with a stake suit on, you can't go too far south if you get 8. Now, what I want to really get at is if that man did something to her like that the first time, then she should have went to the police. She should have went to the police because that's what they do.
Yeah.
In regards to what kind of opportunity
this is so,
he could provide
Leslie,
her.
this is really, really common that women are assaulted by men or simply, taken advantage of or
But
whatever.
it's just as common that men get caught up in the trick.
And they
what I call
don't
a
go
trick
to the
bag.
police because they're afraid of what will happen.
Common that
In
men
a
get-
lot of places, the police don't take this kind of stuff seriously.
But
And
it's just as common that people get caught in trick bags. And
No,
when
it's-
that trick bag occurs, and when you come back
I'm not
later,
going to go
when you
down
come
the
back- now-
if then or what
Man,
if.
I mean,
yeah.
I
Leslie,
think
I'm
that would be-
out of time. I'm sorry. I get it. I get what you're saying. I disagree. I think he showed insanely bad judgment to begin with, and where it went from there was even worse. So good riddance. 27 minutes past the hour. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Talk Media for the sane among us. We'll be right back with your calls. Trump blockades Iran as China defies him. Vance walks to a near deal. ICE kidnaps a citizen, and Dershowitz schemes to erase impeachment history. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging America into World War III at the Strait of Hormuz? The U.S. is enforcing a naval blockade of all Iranian ports, and China is pushing back hard. Defense Minister Admiral Dong Jun warned Monday that Chinese ships will keep moving through the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of what Washington says. China has trade and energy agreements with Iran and expects others not to meddle. That's a direct message to the U.S. Navy. China imports roughly half its oil from the Persian Gulf. A sanctioned Chinese tanker has already transited the strait in defiance of the blockade. Iran is threatening to block Gulf state ports in retaliation. The International Energy Agency warns oil demand could fall 80,000 barrels a day while prices race toward $100 a barrel. This is what two nuclear-armed superpowers colliding over oil looks like in real time. Iran offered a deal. Trump walked away and chose war. Before the blockade, Iran offered to suspend its nuclear program for up to 5 years. Trump rejected it. J.D. Vance pushed for a 20-year freeze during marathon talks in Islamabad, the highest level U.S.-Iran negotiations in 47 years. Vance spent 21 hours on the ground there before walking out, saying Iran didn't move far enough. Trump's demands? Dismantle all enrichment facilities, hand over 400 kilos of near-bomb-grade uranium, cut off Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and open the strait. Iran won't do it. The ceasefire is now in jeopardy. Britain refuses to join the blockade. France and the UK are organizing a multinational mission to restore shipping. When you're that close to a deal, why does Trump choose the bomb over the bargaining table? Did federal agents just kidnap an American citizen from his own home? That's what Ramsey County, Minnesota is calling it. ICE agents broke into the St. Paul home of Chong-Li Thao in January. He's a Hmong American man, a longtime U.S. citizen with no criminal record. All on video. Agents dragged him outside in his underwear in sub-freezing temperature, threw him in a car, and questioned him for over an hour. Then they realized their mistake and brought him home. County Attorney John Choi says the incident involves felonious kidnapping, illegal detainment, and false imprisonment. No probable cause, no warrant. The Department of Homeland Security insists ICE doesn't kidnap people, but the video says otherwise. Federal agents have refused to cooperate with the state investigators. When the government hauls any American from their home without cause, none of us are safe. United Airlines' CEO wants to build a monopoly in the sky. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby has quietly pitched the Trump administration on merging United and American Airlines, creating the world's largest carrier. Together, they already control more than a third of the U.S. domestic market. Combined, they'd crush every competitor. Transportation Secretary and former reality TV star Sean Duffy said the government will look at it, but won't pre-commit, adding that any merged airline might need to shed some assets. Antitrust lawyers say this deal faces enormous hurdles, even under a business-friendly administration. Experts agree. Fewer airlines means higher fares, more fees, and fewer options for working Americans. This is monopoly capitalism in action. A CEO walks into the White House and asks permission to corner the market on American skies, and the administration is seriously entertaining the idea. Your tax bill just revealed who the government really works for. Happy tax day tomorrow. Here's what your money actually bought last year. The National Priorities Project found that the average American taxpayer paid $4,000.49 for war and weapons in 2025. Pentagon contractors, military salaries, nuclear weapons, and foreign military aid, including weapons used in attacks on Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. Compare that to only $2,492 for Medicaid, $124 for school lunches, and just $16 for home heating assistance. Those figures don't include this year's war on Iran, which could add another $130 per taxpayer and climbing. Trump is asking Congress for $1.5 trillion in military spending next year. More than half of Americans can't afford basic necessities. The government shakes us down for endless war while kids go hungry and families struggle to keep the lights on. Will Trump wipe away his impeachment? He's getting help from Epstein's lawyer. Trump is publicly praising the idea of expunging his 2019 impeachment from the record. He's calling the man who proposed it one of the greats. That man is Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard law professor who defended Jeffrey Epstein and helped negotiate the sweetheart deal that kept a serial sex offender out of federal prison. Dershowitz says Trump could go to Chief Justice John Roberts or Congress to reverse the impeachment, arguing that the key whistleblower had a potential bias, gave hearsay testimony, and made false statements. This is something that's never been done. Legal scholars say it can't be done, but Trump is lavishing praise on the idea anyway. When a sitting president tries to erase his own impeachment with help from Epstein's lawyer, authoritarianism isn't approaching, it's already here. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Share the Thom Hartmann program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. When Ronald Reagan took over America in 1981, we handed him a brand gleaming new country. Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, Jack Kennedy, they had built America. We had brand new schools, brand new hospitals, brand new interstate highway systems, brand new airports, infrastructure. We were the envy of the world. And then Republicans came along and they said, well, you just cut the top tax rate from 74% down to 27% and everything will trickle down. Instead, what do we get? Billionaires and poverty. They said, hey, just deregulate guns, and an armed society is a polite society. Instead, we've got more school shootings than anywhere in the world. They said, just kill off civics and history classes in our schools and it'll liberate our young people to focus on science and math. Now we've got people who don't know how our government works. I mean, it just goes on from there. There's a whole rant about it over at HartmannReport.com titled FDR Saved America, Then the GOP Ripped Us Apart. Check it out. 35 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. And picking up your calls here, Kate in Lamont, Illinois. Hey, Kate, what's up?
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about Eric Swalwell, too. Now, I may not be up to date, but I heard that one woman accused him of doing something in 2019, and when they asked her why she's doing it right now, she said she got support to do it now. I'd like to know who she got support from.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kate. Finish your thought.
Oh, and I would think the Democrats would like to know that before they kick him out.
Well,
they got rid of Al Franken, one of their best spokesmen, when a whole bunch of women he'd worked with for years vouched for him over a picture. And now Eric Swalwell, I don't know, it sounds suspicious to me.
Yeah, I think these are apples and oranges. I agree that Al Franken principally resigned because Kirsten Gillibrand came after him and was demanding that his colleague, the other senator from New York State. And in retrospect, it was a horrible thing, and he had not committed the kind of crimes that that the Republicans were trying to turn it into. With Eric Swalwell, his staffers have turned against him. His campaign people have turned against him. Several of them have said they've seen this kind of behavior. You've got a woman who just held a press conference about 15 minutes ago saying that she was drugged. Whether there was that or she drank too much, I mean, God only knows. I don't know anything about the details of this stuff, but he is out. He himself has resigned, not just from the governor's race, but from Congress. And
I know.
So I think this is a dead topic.
You're saying there's more than one woman who's accusing him?
Yes, and the support, you said, she got support. I think that the support was basically that other women came out and said, yes, this happened to me, and that was enough for her to say, okay, that's it. I'm going to go public. So. Okay.
And the other thing, I've been trying to call for weeks. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, about Mr. Preddy. The first video I saw on television of him on the ground, he called out, "Are you going to kill me?" And then he called out, "You're killing me." Yeah. And I heard that in the first video, but I haven't heard it in anything since then. What happened? Did you ever hear that?
No, I didn't, but I don't. It may be possible. It may be the case. I would say, number one, with regard to, just to close the Eric Swalwell, now we also have this congressman from Texas who's a Republican who's going to resign. His affair led to his staffer committing suicide. I think a good riddance to both of them, frankly. But what's shocking is that we have a fellow in the White House who was convicted by 2 different juries of raping a woman, E. Jean Carroll, and who has more than 20 other women who have accused him of rape or sexual assault. And he's still in the White House. The Republican Party is still taking his orders. I think that tells you everything you need to know about the difference between the two.
For sure.
So, yeah. So anyway, thank you for the call, Kate. Ellie in central New York. Is it Ellie or Elle?
Ellie.
Hey, Ellie. What's up?
How are you, Mr. Hartmann?
I am fine, thank you.
I do fully agree with you regarding anti-corruption being the top issue of any political campaign. That must be the case. The presidential pardons power, that must be reformed or be done without, because what is the point of going through a trial and establishing guilt, and then you have someone that goes ahead and pardons serious offenses?
Yeah.
So that's totally contradictory in current times. And the next thing that I like to comment about is I am so perplexed when anyone refers to Donald Trump as being unpredictable and showing signs of dementia. This man is 80 years old. His record is well established and is very consistent. He's been doing the same thing over and over. So there's nothing unpredictable about Donald Trump. I don't think so. Now, regarding signs of dementia, well, he might have obviously some aging signs and his mental
Age-related
ability.
cognitive loss, yeah.
Yeah, but that does not mean that this person has not been the same for 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear...
in other words, he's
Trump,
always been a liar and a crook.
I think that, in fact, in one interview he gave somewhere, and people can Google that or try to research, that he said that he doesn't believe that people really change that much along the way, that he finds himself to be the same person, plus minus 1 point or so, you know?
Yeah.
So, no, the character of this person is very well established, is consistent. The courthouse said he is this, he did that, and la.
Yeah.
So when I hear his niece, Mary Trump, discussing his signs of dementia, I say, okay, but please do not let that be an excuse to clean the table and absolve him of any responsibility for what he's been doing for all this time.
Yeah, let's not psychoanalyze evil. Yeah, I get it. Your point is well made, Ellie. Thank you very much. Max in San Francisco. Hey, Max, what's up?
Hey, Tom. First of all, thank you very much for the work that you do in serving truth as you do.
Thank you.
I want to comment on the Antichrist issue. About a year ago, Donald gave a speech, and I saw it, and what I saw with my mind and my heart, one of those moments where it just hits you in the face without any thought about it, that he is the Antichrist. And my brother had happened to, in a different location, seen the very same speech as millions of people probably did. And he had the exact same bang in the face, this is the Antichrist, no question about it. So he is, to me, that is not a religious thing at all. For me, the Christ consciousness is something that's of humanity. It's not of a religion. Jesus was not a Christian. Jesus, his body, excuse me. Yes, his body was born in the Jewish faith, but he, as a person, as a being, was committed to goodness, to service, and to loving your neighbor, and so forth. So for me, the whole issue of being goodness or Antichrist is not a religious thing at all. Now, so the bad news is that Donald, at least in my opinion, is in fact the Antichrist. The good news, if I look at his life, this man has been the very same character developing for 60 years of his 80.
Yeah, as Ellie was just saying.
All those things that we dislike, but he's been protected the whole time. From my perspective, I look at this whole thing we call life here in this particular time as run by the divine at the highest level, so that everything happens is leading to an outcome that is, for me anyway, this is personal, that for me is the birth of a new earth that is really based in love and justice that we all want, that we're all hungry for. So the good news that the Antichrist is now in charge in this country, and therefore the most powerful man in the world, the good news is that, from my perspective again, we are at the end of the era of the hidden darkness and the under the covers, background CIA, sabotaging the world, and it's out in the open now, so people can have to recognize it, at least to the degree they're willing to, and it's coming to an end very quickly.
Let every tongue proclaim. I get it. Max, thank you. Thank you very much. 44 and a half minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back. Johan in Los Angeles. Hey, Johan, what's up?
I have two questions for you today. And One is United buying American Airlines. Is there more than monopoly behind it? Or just want to make it bigger? Second is pump and dump scheme. And is that like same as like farmers dumping their produces and tell the market that they didn't produce much, so they charge more for profit? What do you think?
With regard to the monopoly, United and American, if they merge, will. We already have a monopsony. We already have basically 4 airlines that control so much of the air traffic in America that it's not a competitive industry anymore, or significantly competitive, or anywhere near as competitive as it should be, frankly. With regard to pump and dump, what do you mean? Are you talking about gas prices, or are you talking about
something like that? Yeah, I saw the scheme last night, and then it's almost like you get the oil and then they dump somewhere, and then we
do buy oil from the Middle East. We not a great deal. We buy about 1 million barrels a day, I believe, maybe 2. But we do buy oil from the Middle East, and that's going to be hitting soon. This week, and in fact, I'm going to be talking about this in the next hour. This week and next week are the weeks when the last of the oil that left the Straits of Hormuz, when they were first closed, when that oil reaches its final destinations and there's no more oil behind it. And that's when, you've got, the Philippines are in a crisis. 90% of their oil is imported. Australia is going to be in a crisis, although they're moving to solar as rapidly as they possibly can. But they may have to go back to more coal. And here in the United States, it's going to continue to drive up gas prices. I think the economic pressure is the thing that's driving Trump. They're looking at the midterms and they're not happy about where this is going. So those are my thoughts on that, Johan. Thanks for the calls. Merlin in Capitola, California. Hey, Merlin, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just fine.
Hey, listen, I have a different take on Trump being the Antichrist. I don't think Trump is the Antichrist. I think he's ushering in the Antichrist. I think the Antichrist is going to be more like a born-again Bernie Sanders. He's going to have the answers for everything. Everyone's going to love him. All of a sudden, Medicare is going to be there, enough food stamps for everybody, enough Social Security. Everybody's going to love him. He's going to make peace. And that's what it says in the Bible. He's going to be a peacemaker. He's going to make a covenant between Israel and the other nations in the Middle East. And everybody's going to love this guy. I don't think Trump's the Antichrist.
You don't think that's the Abraham Accords? Trump already did that, right? In his last term.
No, I don't think it's the Abraham Accords. I think that it's going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
And then when it does, somebody's going to make peace, and it could be Trump and Kushner. Who knows? But I don't think. Everybody seems to be obsessed like the Antichrist is going to be an American president.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Who says this? As far as I'm concerned, it looks like America is the false Babylon or mystery Babylon.
Yeah, I think you could build a case there. I'm not a big believer in antichrists as, supernatural figures. But I think that Trump is an antichrist. I think he's opposed to Christ. He's opposed to the teachings of Christ. That's enough for me. Merlin, thanks for the call. I get what you're saying. But being anti, all the things that Jesus stood for, that is Donald Trump. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. And welcome back. 49 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls here. Sue in Belmont, Michigan. Hey, Sue, what's up?
Hi. I know everybody's been talking about this Antichrist thing, and I'm sorry if I have to go over that again, but I got a different take on it.
Oh, great.
I've been reading something, I think he's a pastor, his name is Benjamin Kramer, and he says, something that the Apostle John, who wrote Revelation, is emphasizing, and not that we need to exclusively focus on a single future figure as a Antichrist. We miss what John emphasized, that the danger is already among us, occurring in every age. Many Antichrists have come. The warning is not only about what will be, but what is. And he's indicating here that we need to be discerning about every leader, every movement, every voice that claims to represent Jesus. Do they confess him truly, not only with words, but with lives shaped by his teachings, like what you talk about in Matthew 25?
Yeah.
Because religious language can mask rebellion and performative devotion can mask idolatry, even mouths full of scriptures can have hearts full of hate. So, and I'm looking at this Christian nationalism thing, and I see that as a form of Antichrist spirit. So it's not necessary. It's not, and I don't know if you'd want to call Hitler was an Antichrist of some sort.
I certainly would.
It has, okay, and so what this guy is saying, that there's something like that in every age.
Yeah.
But we have to be aware and remember our allegiance is to Christ.
Yeah.
And his teachings.
Yes, and that makes a lot more. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me. I mean, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, when she tweeted about this, she said he represents the spirit of the Antichrist, not that he is the Antichrist. And again, I mean, you've got this whole debate about whether there even could be, an Antichrist, and whether John meant that literally or not in Revelation and some of the other references. Jesus didn't speak of an Antichrist. He spoke of, ravening wolves, so those who would come after his followers and lead them astray. As I recall, that's actually in the Sermon on the Mount. But Sue, good point.
I have
Excellent
one
point.
other thing to add.
Okay.
I have, aside from this,
That picture, the guy who's sick, looks more like Jon Stewart.
Well, Jon Stewart pointed that out on his show last night, gleefully. But yeah, you're right. He looks more like Jon Stewart than Jeffrey Epstein, but, who knows? Generic white guy. Sue, thank you very much for the call. Sia in West Los Angeles. Hey, Sia, what's up?
Hi, good morning, Tom. Thank you so much for picking up the call.
Sure. What's on your mind?
So I like this whole idea of Trump being the Antichrist is just hilarious to me, first of all. I mean, aside from the fact that we're talking about something entirely ridiculous and, going into the realms of this cult-like ideology again, that people then are going to now start to strengthen again and focus on more so than literal children being raped and bombed is really ridiculous to me.
Well, why can't you say that they're both the same thing? It's all one thing. Donald Trump being the Antichrist and Donald Trump raping and bombing children. I mean, it's all the same stuff, isn't it?
Sure, but this is where I'm getting to this, because if it's anybody that is the Antichrist in current situation, I think it would have to be the Israel government and Netanyahu at the helm. Trump is a scapegoat. Trump has always been the scapegoat. Yes, he's the focus. He's the big showy guy, so obviously he's going to be at the forefront. But Netanyahu continues to, dodge scrutiny, and the Israeli government and the Israeli civilians.
Well, they started his trial back up again this week.
Right,
that's a good sign.
And that's great. I love that. Yeah. I love that. But just, because yes, we can say let's not focus so much on the Israeli government because we're not in the Israeli government, we are in America. Yeah. But that's not to say the Israeli government is not in America, okay? Because not only is there a lot of Israeli Americans that support what Netanyahu is doing, but there's also a lot of Israeli Americans in the American government, okay? And in the facets of American society.
By Israeli Americans, you mean
social
Jews?
Media, right?
Sia, you cannot conflate being Jewish with being pro-Israel generically and particularly being pro-Netanyahu. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that anti-Semites love to promote. It's the Jews, and it's not. It's, it's just not. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Derek in Denver. Hey, Derek, what's on your mind today? Whoa.
What's going on, Tom? How are you doing?
Good.
Oh, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I do. I can.
Sweet. So, yeah, dude, that Antichrist thing's kind of crazy for sure. But I would like to talk just for a second about the elections, kind of the midterms, but especially the presidential elections.
In 3 years.
Because I'm yes, in 2028, but also the midterms, kind of in general. I got super involved in politics during the Occupy Wall Street movement, and big talking point was find a candidate and back them. Right, that was what a lot of moderates kind of came out to the parks to tell us, and we kind of did that in 2016, and we pushed for Bernie, and we all know what happened. We don't have to rehash that too much. But I'm kind of concerned, because a lot of these kind of more popular talk shows and stuff, Don Lemon and those types of folks, the more progressive, but like mainstream progressives, they're already saying it's time to compromise, and it's time to, they're not saying vote blue no matter who. But my concern is that we're going to have an option with somebody like Ro Khanna or Mark Pocan or AOC or any other number of progressive candidates that we have. And they're going to push for someone like Hakeem Jeffries, and then we're going to be either stuck in the same position during the primaries where we're all fighting and then we split apart again, or we're going to have somebody who's not.
I think that's predictable, Derek. You're gonna see the guys taking big money from corporations versus the progressives. I'm just hopeful that a progressive candidate wins this time.
Me too.
So I think the time. I agree with you. In 2016, there's no doubt in my mind Bernie Sanders would have beat Donald Trump. No doubt in my mind, and he got screwed. But that's the past. Let's look for the future. Derek, thank you. Thoughtful comment. Thank you. Appreciate it. On the other side of the break, Christopher Armitage is going to drop by and tell us how we can help prosecute Trumpsters. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Trump blockades Iran as China defies him. Vance walks to Madeira deal. ICE kidnaps a citizen, and Dershowitz schemes to erase impeachment history. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging America into World War III at the Strait of Hormuz? The U.S. is enforcing a naval blockade of all Iranian ports, and China is pushing back hard. Defense Minister Admiral Dong Jun warned Monday that Chinese ships will keep moving through the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of what Washington says. China has trade and energy agreements with Iran and expects others not to meddle. That's a direct message to the U.S. Navy. China imports roughly half its oil from the Persian Gulf. A sanctioned Chinese tanker has already transited the strait in defiance of the blockade. Iran is threatening to block Gulf state ports in retaliation. The International Energy Agency warns oil demand could fall 80,000 barrels a day while prices race toward $100 a barrel. This is what two nuclear-armed superpowers colliding over oil looks like in real time. Iran offered a deal. Trump walked away and chose war. Before the blockade, Iran offered to suspend its nuclear program for up to 5 years. Trump rejected it. J.D. Vance pushed for a 20-year freeze during marathon talks in Islamabad, the highest level U.S.-Iran negotiations in 47 years. Vance spent 21 hours on the ground there before walking out, saying Iran didn't move far enough. Trump's demands? dismantle all enrichment facilities, hand over 400 kilos of near-bomb-grade uranium, cut off Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and open the strait. Iran won't do it. The ceasefire is now in jeopardy. Britain refuses to join the blockade. France and the UK are organizing a multinational mission to restore shipping. When you're that close to a deal, why does Trump choose the bomb over the bargaining table? Did federal agents just kidnap an American citizen from his own home? That's what Ramsey County, Minnesota is calling it. ICE agents broke into the St. Paul home of Chongli Thao in January. He's a Hmong American man, a longtime U.S. citizen with no criminal record. All on video. Agents dragged him outside in his underwear in sub-freezing temperature, threw him in a car, and questioned him for over an hour. Then they realized their mistake and brought him home. County Attorney John Choi says the incident involves felonious kidnapping, illegal detainment, and false imprisonment. No probable cause, no warrant. The Department of Homeland Security insists ICE doesn't kidnap people, but the video says otherwise. Federal agents have refused to cooperate with the state investigators. When the government hauls any American from their home without cause, none of us are safe. United Airlines' CEO wants to build a monopoly in the sky. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby has quietly pitched the Trump administration on merging United and American Airlines, creating the world's largest carrier. Together, they already control more than a third of the U.S. domestic market. Combined, they'd crush every competitor. Transportation Secretary and former reality TV star Sean Duffy said the government will look at it, but won't pre-commit, adding that any merged airline might need to shed some assets. Antitrust lawyers say this deal faces enormous hurdles, even under a business-friendly administration. Experts agree. Fewer airlines means higher fares, more fees, and fewer options for working Americans. This is monopoly capitalism in action. A CEO walks into the White House and asks permission to corner the market on American skies, and the administration is seriously entertaining the idea. Your tax bill just revealed who the government really works for. Happy tax day tomorrow. Here's what your money actually bought last year. The National Priorities Project found that the average American taxpayer paid $4,000.49 for war and weapons in 2025. Pentagon contractors, military salaries, nuclear weapons, and foreign military aid, including weapons used in attacks on Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. Compare that to only $2,492 for Medicaid, $124 for school lunches, and just $16 for home heating assistance. Those figures don't include this year's war on Iran, which could add another $130 per taxpayer and climbing. Trump is asking Congress for $1.5 trillion in military spending next year. More than half of Americans can't afford basic necessities. The government shakes us down for endless war while kids go hungry and families struggle to keep the lights on. Will Trump wipe away his impeachment? He's getting help from Epstein's lawyer. Trump is publicly praising the idea of expunging his 2019 impeachment from the record. He's calling the man who proposed it one of the greats. That man is Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard law professor who defended Jeffrey Epstein and helped negotiate the sweetheart deal that kept a serial sex offender out of federal prison. Dershowitz says Trump could go to Chief Justice John Roberts or Congress to reverse the impeachment, arguing that the key whistleblower had a potential bias, gave hearsay testimony, and made false statements. This is something that's never been done. Legal scholars say it can't be done, but Trump is lavishing praise on the idea anyway. When a sitting president tries to erase his own impeachment with help from Epstein's lawyer, authoritarianism isn't approaching, it's already here. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the third hour of our program. So Hungary gets a new prime minister next month, and the new prime minister is saying, no, we're not going to subsidize CPAC or any of this crap anymore, and no more, we're going to actually go after, like as in prosecute, the people who have been ripping off this country. And he hasn't posted a list yet, but I'm sure that will be coming. Orban's son-in-law has already fled the country to the United States. He's probably hiding out at Mar-a-Lago. Could we do something like that here? Christopher Armitage is on the line with us. He's a journalist, criminal justice researcher, former law enforcement officer, veteran, author. He's got a great Substack. The Existentialist Republic on a Substack. It's cmarmitage.substack.com, or just go to substack.com and plug in Existentialist Republic. It'll pop right up. And Christopher, welcome back. You had a brilliant piece. Criminal cases are being built against Trump and his cabinet in all 50 states. Tell me about this.
So at the Existentialist Republic, we have a pretty big network of activists and attorneys and people with all sorts of different skill sets. A lot of people who, former law enforcement who woke up to the reality that we live in and that we're in a police state, all very diverse skill sets, a lot of people with research backgrounds. And so we've been putting together, we originally did this with Doge, and it was kind of a test case where we looked up the state criminal statutes for online crimes, and then wrote up 50 different states worth of prosecution information so that people could make criminal referrals to their county attorney, district attorney, governor, and to even police reports. So now we learned from that. We're applying it to Trump and his cabinet and people at the DOJ and FBI who've engaged in criminal activities. And so the idea is we are putting together, looking at the actual state statutes, existing case law, and examples where there is standing. That means the state has a right to enforce its law because it's relevant in how it's been prosecuted before. And we're looking for where Trump and his cabinet have violated state law everywhere they can. And step one to that, the article that you shared, is getting constituents, donors, residents, contacting their attorneys general with two very important questions to prime them for when they receive the criminal referrals or prosecution memos.
And those questions are?
Those questions are, number one, is there any law, statute, Supreme Court ruling, or constitutional amendment that grants a sitting U.S. president complete and total immunity from state-level investigation and criminal prosecution for violating that state's laws? Please answer yes or no and briefly explain the legal basis for your answer. Question number two, if your office receives documented evidence suggesting potential criminal violations of your state's laws by a sitting U.S. president, cabinet member, or staff at the DOJ or FBI, do you commit to conducting an independent standing analysis, and if the evidence meets the threshold for prosecution, presenting that evidence to a grand jury?
Do you actually expect any state attorneys general to respond to that?
Well, so far we've gotten some form letters. We just sent it out yesterday, and we're not getting answers, but that is step one. They're not answering the questions, and they're just burying a bunch of legalese that is completely irrelevant to the actual questions. Now, these are questions that you shouldn't be allowed to be a Democrat anymore. You shouldn't be allowed to be a law enforcement official, especially if you're elected, but even if you're appointed. And if you're appointed, the governor who elected you needs to hold. If you're not willing to say, there is the fact. Factually speaking, I need everybody listening to this to understand something. There is no law, statute, Supreme Court ruling, not even Trump versus U.S., or constitutional amendment that says that a president is immune from criminal prosecution, and at the state level, that can't be pardoned.
Yeah. Did you, when you went after Doge in a similar manner a little earlier this year, did anything come of that? Have there been any actual specific prosecutions, or are you seeing things start?
Yeah, there's follow-up information that's been really promising. A couple different prosecutors have actually engaged with it substantively, and police reports that were actually filed forwarded to county attorneys and district attorneys who responded to us, and there's been some back and forth, and also referrals made to attorneys general in at least 3 states. And so it's progress. The way I really describe this to people is imagine the way that heat is created is atoms, movement, energy. That we're all a little atom. We're creating that movement and that energy, and we don't know exactly what's going to be the thing that forces the U.S. system to reform into a better system. But this is the pressure that we apply. This is the energy that creates change.
Yeah, we are all our own Brownian motion, I guess, here, or whatever heat transfer. I love it. I think it's so important, and that, one of the big hits on the Biden administration, and specifically on Merrick Garland, was that he pissed away 2 years of the 4 years that Biden had in office, preparing to go after Donald Trump. And, and then when he went after him, when he finally decided he was going to go after him, that's when Trump decided that he needed to jump back into politics to protect himself, which worked out well for Trump. To take this to up to the next step, do you know of any kind of a movement, or are you going to participate in one or try to start one? And I would certainly, raise my hand to require or demand or request that any Democratic candidate running for any office anywhere in the United States say that they are willing to not let bygones be bygones, but that the people who corrupted the FBI, the people who fired all these people inappropriately, the people who fired the JAG officers, I mean, obviously I'm talking about people like Kash Patel and Whiskey Pete and all these guys, that they will be held accountable in a court of law for the things that they're doing.
Well, here's the problem. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was rambling. Go ahead.
The will be is the problem, because the fact is Donald Trump can be arrested, his staff can be arrested, members of the FBI and DOJ can be arrested for criminal activity that they've done anytime in the next 2.5 years. AG Letitia James, New York AG, she's done an amazing job, and she followed the existing playbook so well when she started criminal investigations into Donald Trump during his first administration. But she waited to bring charges until after the election. Donald Trump never stopped running for re-election. Judge Merchan, even before this, even after allowing a jury to decide, to rule that he was guilty, they still decided, we're going to wait a year before we sentence. And then, now he's going to be president, so we need to, and then we're just going to not actually, carry any consequences. The RICO charges in Georgia that got swept under the rug, there is nothing that says that any of these people can't be held accountable now. And I ask people, bring your attention to your prosecutors, to your attorneys general, because these are all prosecutable crimes. These are all criminal referrals. And over the next few weeks, the Existentialist Republic will be releasing actual prosecution memos that can be used in court and cite existing precedent and case law that show, using publicly available information, that the standards have been met for criminal prosecution, or at least investigation, for this entire administration.
Have you had any contact with Letitia James's office or any other state AG around the country that might give you some hope that they're thinking of taking this on? Or I'm assuming that they would be getting pressure from their governors saying, please don't do that. I don't want my Medicaid money cut off, or things like that. I mean, Trump is not beneath or above or whatever, punishing states for trying to take him on.
I don't personally want to speak to the AGs. I want everyone listening to this constituents. I've spoken to my AG in Washington State, but I need you to speak to your AGs and tell them that this is what you want. And today I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, just had some great conversations with Charlotte Indivisible, and Attorney General of North Carolina, Jeff Jackson, who is a very ambitious man who people speak very highly of. Some of his staff just sent back a standard boilerplate form letter. When I ask you those questions about, just tell me, what's the law, statute, or ruling that makes a president above the law, Mr. Democrat Attorney General? Okay, well, you're not going to answer that question. Well, if you receive actual publicly available evidence that shows that this meets the threshold for breaking criminal statutes in the state and we have standing, are you going to prosecute them? A non-answer is a devastating, truly devastating issue that should result in a recall if someone's not going to answer that. So today, Attorney General of North Carolina, Jeff Jackson, since I was here, and I shared that with the folks in North Carolina, he's going to be getting phone calls from donors and from people who've supported him since very early in his career. And I hope that he's going to be ready to say, gosh, of course I know the answers to those questions. The president isn't above the law because I know the law because I'm the Attorney General.
Yeah. Who would march into the White House to arrest Trump?
See, that's a really tough question. Who would do it? I don't know. I know that your employer shouldn't determine if charges are brought against you. I know that who will arrest you, it's another one. It's like, we literally invaded another country to abduct their leader. Maybe the answer is that, we charge people all the time with crimes who we don't even know where they are.
Yeah.
Or we might not have the means to go arrest them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You enforce the law. Like it's only in the situation of someone so wildly powerful would we even ask these questions. Because in the ethics standards for the Bar Association, it says you should not be taking these things into account when it comes to the application of justice. And so Democrats are putting Trump above the law by not enforcing the law.
I totally get it. Christopher Armitage, The Existentialist Republic on Substack. Check it out. It's free. It's brilliant. Christopher, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a moment. Stick around. And welcome back. Andy in Seattle. Hey, Andy, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I was hoping to back the train up just a little bit, back to the gentleman who called in saying that essentially that women in the hands of powerful men, predators, should have gone to the police, that call.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay.
Well, I don't disagree that they should go to, well, you heard what I said. Go ahead, Andy.
I heard what you said, and I thank you for saying that, but I just had a couple things to add to that. It's just, oh my gosh, it's such an old and tired, and it's such a shaming argument.
Yeah.
And however out of context, it's a logical argument. In fact, when I was young, stupid, inexperienced, I might have made such a judgmental argument along that. I think I did, listening to the news. But in the context of the real world, and especially any time in decades past, is quite different. The power differential is quite different than today. And that also has to, we have to remember that. Having dealt with enough powerful men myself, if you go up against them, there are sure to be terrible repercussions, and you better know what you're doing before you do it, because they will do everything to ruin you. Just ask the women in Trump's sphere. Just look at what happened. So here's the thing, Tom. What I really realize is it's a huge privilege to be in a financial, safe, socioeconomic, emotional position to even take that chance. And even today, much less in decades past. So, I suggest, instead of focusing on blaming the women who are victims at every turn, let's look at let's take the shoulda, woulda, couldas questions and aim them at the people, men and women both, who were of equal social and economic status around these men. They're always there. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. Why didn't they go to the police? Why didn't they show?
Do you think they knew? I mean, you've got Ruben Gallego out here going, this guy was living a double life. I had no idea.
Yes, I think that's possible, but I think more often than not, as we've seen with Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and all these guys around him, they forget who they are.
Yeah.
I don't, that's not what I meant to say. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they forget that they are not so special that they're above everything.
Yeah.
that nobody, who's going to care? The people in their circle don't care. They're all enabling them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just really want to focus it back on those people. They're really the ones who we should be saying, why didn't you go to the police? Not these women who wouldn't have had a chance.
It's an excellent point. And the earlier caller, his comments, I think, reflected actually the way that up until maybe 15, 20 years ago, all of society reacted to these kind of things. Certainly 40, 50 years ago, all of American society reacted that way. And it's still very much that way in other, male chauvinist societies like, Russia and Hungary and places like that. But yeah, we've come a long way, and we need to go a lot farther.
We've come a long way, really right up until the Me Too movement. It's really, and even then it hasn't changed that much, but at least the needle's moved.
I get it.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Good to hear from you. 21 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in just a minute. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Welcome back. 22 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Hey, Craig, I'm sorry. Hang on just a minute here. I've got to do this story, and then I'll get to your calls. This whole global oil crunch. Donald Trump is basically saying, don't worry, we don't need foreign oil here in the United States. Well, we do, actually. Yes, we are technically independent, but there's two kinds of oil. There's, this light, sweet crude oil that you make into gasoline, and then there's the heavier crude oil that you make into diesel fuel and tar and chemicals and things like that. And our ability to refine these products is based on this particular mix of imported and domestically sourced and Canadian tar oils and, all this other stuff. And that mix has been disrupted by this. So the United States is actually on the verge of starting to experience some minor supply disruptions. The rest of the planet is on the verge of experiencing some major supply disruptions. This was the story at the top of the Financial Times last night when I read this. I'm not sure where it is right now, but the title, it's by Jamie Smith. The title was Oil Supply Crunch Intensifies as Last Hormuz Tankers Reach Refineries. And what basically they're writing about is that it takes about 2 weeks for an oil tanker to get from Iran through the Strait of Hormuz, to however it gets there, to get from there to like Malaysia or Australia or North America. It takes about 2 weeks on the open seas. And it's been about 2 weeks since the Strait of Hormuz was shut. And, well, this is, I'll just read you the first paragraph of the article. The last oil tankers to traverse the Strait of Hormuz before the outbreak of war will reach refineries in the coming days. It could herald physical shortages in Europe and the U.S. within weeks. The final ships to clear the strait before the Iran war began are expected to reach their destination in Malaysia and Australia by April 20th. Refineries in Asia were reducing operations because of issues in accessing enough crude oil. They even drew down strategic reserves. Asia, which sources 80% of its crude from the Middle East, is in trouble. The last pre-war deliveries to the U.S. are set to end this week, while those to Africa had landed by April 10th. They go on to note that the Forties blend, a North Sea grade, soared close to $149 a barrel yesterday. European and Asian refineries are competing aggressively for the remaining cargoes, driving spot prices to record highs. The Philippines, which imports more than 95% of its oil from the Middle East, has declared a national emergency. Indonesia and Vietnam have instructed people to work from home. Australia, which is due to receive its last cargo from the Middle East on April 18, has released fuel reserves, cut fuel taxes, and rolled out a national fuel security plan. So, everybody's trying to do this. The most, and by the way, we cannot supply the rest of the world with oil. We can, the maximum that we could export, and this is because of physical limitations. You can't get these super tankers into most U.S. ports, so you have to use smaller tankers to get the oil out to the super tankers, and then, of course, it takes a couple of weeks for that oil to get anywhere. But the most physically that we could export is 5.5 million barrels a day. And this shutting the Straits of Hormuz is producing a 20 million barrel a day deficiency. So, 20 million barrels a day. So, and also, you know, it's this balance between light crude and heavy crude, you know, that's got everybody flipped out. So the belief that America can fix this crisis is essentially a dangerous delusion. There's a fascinating piece over at collapse2050.substack.com by Sarah Connor. Can the U.S. replace Strait of Hormuz? Can U.S. oil replace Strait of Hormuz? No. And this is going to hit. This is going to hit the rest of the world. And you compound that with Benjamin Netanyahu coming out and yesterday and saying, and just saying it right straight up. Here are his words. This is a verbatim quote from Benjamin Netanyahu. Yes, quote, "I spoke yesterday with J.D. Vance. He reported to me in detail, as members of this administration do every day." Really? We report to Benjamin Netanyahu. I had no idea. Actually, I had a suspicion, but holy cow. And, you know, I don't think he's all that worried about the oil. But the rest of the world, yeah, this is a problem. He's just trying to keep himself out of prison is what's going on. 27 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
So I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. We'll start with Craig in Cedar Rapids. Stick around. Trump blockades Iran as China defies him. Vance walks to a near deal. ICE kidnaps a citizen, and Dershowitz schemes to erase impeachment history. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Is Trump dragging America into World War III at the Strait of Hormuz? The U.S. is enforcing a naval blockade of all Iranian ports, and China is pushing back hard. Defense Minister Admiral Dong Jun warned Monday that Chinese ships will keep moving through the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of what Washington says. China has trade and energy agreements with Iran and expects others not to meddle. That's a direct message to the U.S. Navy. China imports roughly half its oil from the Persian Gulf. A sanctioned Chinese tanker has already transited the strait in defiance of the blockade. Iran is threatening to block Gulf state ports in retaliation. The International Energy Agency warns oil demand could fall 80,000 barrels a day while prices race toward $100 a barrel. This is what two nuclear-armed superpowers colliding over oil looks like in real time. Iran offered a deal. Trump walked away and chose war. Before the blockade, Iran offered to suspend its nuclear program for up to 5 years. Trump rejected it. J.D. Vance pushed for a 20-year freeze during marathon talks in Islamabad, the highest level U.S.-Iran negotiations in 47 years. Vance spent 21 hours on the ground there before walking out, saying Iran didn't move far enough. Trump's demands? Dismantle all enrichment facilities, hand over 400 kilos of near-bomb-grade uranium, cut off Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and open the strait. Iran won't do it. The ceasefire is now in jeopardy. Britain refuses to join the blockade. France and the UK are organizing a multinational mission to restore shipping. When you're that close to a deal, why does Trump choose the bomb over the bargaining table? Did federal agents just kidnap an American citizen from his own home? That's what Ramsey County, Minnesota is calling it. ICE agents broke into the St. Paul home of Chongli Thao in January. He's a Hmong American man, a longtime U.S. citizen with no criminal record. All on video. Agents dragged him outside in his underwear in sub-freezing temperature, threw him in a car, and questioned him for over an hour. Then they realized their mistake and brought him home. County Attorney John Choi says the incident involves felonious kidnapping, illegal detainment, and false imprisonment. No probable cause, no warrant. The Department of Homeland Security insists ICE doesn't kidnap people, but the video says otherwise. Federal agents have refused to cooperate with the state investigators. When the government hauls any American from their home without cause, none of us are safe. United Airlines' CEO wants to build a monopoly in the sky. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby has quietly pitched the Trump administration on merging United and American Airlines, creating the world's largest carrier. Together, they already control more than a third of the U.S. domestic market. Combined, they'd crush every competitor. Transportation Secretary and former reality TV star Sean Duffy said the government will look at it, but won't pre-commit, adding that any merged airline might need to shed some assets. Antitrust lawyers say this deal faces enormous hurdles, even under a business-friendly administration. Experts agree. Fewer airlines means higher fares, more fees, and fewer options for working Americans. This is monopoly capitalism in action. A CEO walks into the White House and asks permission to corner the market on American skies, and the administration is seriously entertaining the idea. Your tax bill just revealed who the government really works for. Happy tax day tomorrow. Here's what your money actually bought last year. The National Priorities Project found that the average American taxpayer paid $4,000.49 for war and weapons in 2025. Pentagon contractors, military salaries, nuclear weapons, and foreign military aid, including weapons used in attacks on Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. Compare that to only $2,492 for Medicaid, $124 for school lunches, and just $16 for home heating assistance. Those figures don't include this year's war on Iran, which could add another $130 per taxpayer and climbing. Trump is asking Congress for $1.5 trillion in military spending next year. More than half of Americans can't afford basic necessities. The government shakes us down for endless war, while kids go hungry and families struggle to keep the lights on. Will Trump wipe away his impeachment? He's getting help from Epstein's lawyer. Trump is publicly praising the idea of expunging his 2019 impeachment from the record. He's calling the man who proposed it one of the greats. That man is Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard law professor who defended Jeffrey Epstein and helped negotiate the sweetheart deal that kept a serial sex offender out of federal prison. Dershowitz says Trump could go to Chief Justice John Roberts or Congress to reverse the impeachment, arguing that the key whistleblower had a potential bias, gave hearsay testimony, and made false statements. This is something that's never been done. Legal scholars say it can't be done, but Trump is lavishing praise on the idea anyway. When a sitting president tries to erase his own impeachment with help from Epstein's lawyer, authoritarianism isn't approaching, it's already here. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Help support Progressive Radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio and tag you're it. They called it blood libel, what the Germans were doing against the Jews, claiming that they were using the blood of Christian children to make their matzah. We've got a new blood libel now here in the United States. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump lying through their teeth, arguing that black Haitian immigrants to the United States, legal immigrants with green cards in this little town in Ohio, are eating pets. This is another libel that goes way back. In the 1890s, people were claiming German and Dutch immigrants were eating pets. Then they claimed in the 1880s, and actually as recently as last year, a restaurant got shut down in California because of claims that they were serving pets. They weren't. It was an Asian restaurant. This is just evil stuff, these lies and spreading this kind of hate. And this is now the strategy that the Republicans are using. There's a whole article about it at HartmannReport.com, Hate as a Political Weapon. Check it out. Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. and picking up your calls here. Craig in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Thanks for waiting, Craig. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. It's good to talk to you at long last. I've been listening since the days of Brunch with Bernie.
Oh my goodness!
And you and Bernie introduced me to the concept of Medicare for all or universal health care, and I thought, that sounds reasonable. Let's do that. Come on. And now I'm at the retirement age, and I just wanted to make, it's not a correction of what you said earlier, more of a point of information that people should be aware of. There's you threw in something about Medicaid for all as well as Medicare for all, and I wanted to let people know that Medicare is something that I would say is not a forever benefit to a lot of people, because we have in this country now, and have had for about the past 10 or 12 years, the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. And every state runs it a little bit differently. They have little different definitions of what can be collected and what cannot. But I've got to tell you, in the more aggressive states like Ohio, Iowa, where I'm at, and a few others, the collections are very aggressive, and probably getting more so, especially in the redder states. Mm-hmm. But
you want to explain for people who don't know what you're talking about what that is?
Right. The Medicaid Estate Recovery Program, or MERP, it allows states to collect debt that people have accumulated, or payments that Medicaid has made to different agencies, to the insurance company, for instance, or to a hospital, or to pharmacies, or whatever. But after the recipient dies, or is left without a spouse. Yeah. Now, my wife passed away not too long ago, and I'm the surviving spouse. So by the MERP rules, I don't have to be concerned about this necessarily. They're not going to put a lien on my house immediately, but you do carry that debt with you. And when you die, when you pass away, the state can then collect from your estate. Mm-hmm. And my wife, we received a nice letter from the state, which is not actually the state, and I'll explain that in just a second, which said, your medical assistance debt is $400,000+. And I learned that is just sort of the middle of the iceberg. There were a couple of couples in Iowa a couple of years ago who received bills for over $4 million. Right. And this is
this would be like for long-term nursing care and stuff like that.
Well, actually, no. In one case, it was because the couple had a son who was an adult and he was handicapped, and they couldn't really afford to send him to some institution or whatever. And they kept piling on the bills with Medicaid, which helped him a lot while he was alive. But to receive and I can only imagine that the trauma that people go through when they receive these bills. I wanted to add that in Iowa, the letter actually down at the bottom of the letter that I received, it comes from Sumo Group, which is a group that the state of Iowa contracted with to collect and they'll collect maybe 10 or 12% of the debt that they collect. But Sumo Group is owned by a company called Gainwell Technologies, which is owned by Veritas Capital, a private equity company with, I looked this up moments ago, $54 billion in assets. Whoa. And 60% of those assets come from government agencies. Now, they won't break it down and say this much came from Medicaid collection, but people are getting rich, getting wealthy off of, and also I asked for a list of because Medicaid in Iowa at least never sends you a statement like an estimate of benefits or whatever, saying we paid this much to so and so. Right. But I asked for an itemized list, and the vast majority of it goes to Wellmark, the insurance company, so that the premiums are making the private insurers. We have a private Medicaid in Iowa, and I'm sure a lot of other states do as well. So it's crazy. It's just out of control. It's out of control. I wanted to also say that it's probably an uphill battle at the moment, but Janice Schakowsky, a representative from Illinois, has introduced legislation to end this program and put limits on what the state may or may not recover. And she might be somebody. She'd be a good one to get on to talk about this specific issue.
Yeah.
And let people know that Medicaid is great when it is working for you in the moment, but it's not so great when they come after you and say, you owe us your entire estate, basically. Yeah.
Jan Schakowsky is really one of the good ones. She's great. She's not running for re-election right now, so which is going to be a loss. But or at least that's my understanding. But spot on, Craig. I had I had forgotten about that. We need to, the reason I said Medicaid instead of Medicare is that Medicare is already more than 50% privatized with the Medicare Advantage scam. And so now you've got 6 states, or maybe it's 7 states. I think it's 6 states under the Trump administration that are experimenting with having insurance companies run Medicare in those states, and they're inserting themselves. Washington State, right next to us, is one of them. They are inserting themselves now. So in Washington State, if you're on real Medicare, if you're on Medicare Advantage, of course, every single thing that your doctor says has to be approved by the insurance company. And on Medicare, they just pay the bills. They never pre-approve anything. Well, now they're going to start pre-approving things. If you're on real Medicare, and this is the setup for destroying real Medicare or privatizing it, or further privatizing it, inserting these insurance companies into the middle of actual real Medicare. But then, you're pointing out the downside to Medicaid, which is absolutely there and very, very real. I mean, we looked at this when my mother developed Alzheimer's, and it was like, what do we do? And the need to impoverish yourself before you can avail yourself of it and all this other stuff. Thankfully, my brother and sister-in-law took her in. These are tough things for families, and they just don't exist in any other developed country. There's no other developed country on earth that has these, where average people have to deal with these kinds of insane, and it's all being done so that a handful of insurance industry executives and collection agency executives, as you described, can literally become billionaires. I mean, Dollar Bill McGuire, the first CEO of United Healthcare, retired with $1.5 billion. Stephen Helmsley, the guy who's running it now, $500 million. It's just so wrong. Craig, I got to move along, but thank you for the call.
Thank you much.
You said it so well. Holly in Washington, D.C. Hey, Holly, what's on your mind today?
Eric Swalwell.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, just as an aside, I went by the Cannon House building, and they got somebody else's name on his door already. So
really?
It happens pretty fast. Yeah, I kind of want that. And I double-checked my notes. I said, yep, I don't know. But anyways, I was in the mid-'80s. I got my MBA and went to work in the commercial real estate industry, which was all male-dominated. And one of the reasons I was attracted to it was the testosterone. All the clients, all the developers, everybody was male. And I saw the shenanigans going on all along. And I got curious about it later in my life when I got into spiritual development. This Tantra teacher, I wasn't into Tantra, but he says there's a pattern that goes on. And it starts with, we don't know anything about our sexuality. It's the one area of our lived experience that is loaded with ignorance, hidden agendas, and all of that. So when a man has a lot of testosterone, he seeks power. When he seeks power, his testosterone goes up, and he's more attracted to women. With the women being attracted to him, he gets more testosterone, more recognition, more women coming at him. And it's hard for men to read signals sometimes. And I'm not getting Eric off the hook. I'm just thinking it's a cultural problem more than just one bad guy. But you can just see how the spiral happens underneath the surface of consciousness. Yeah, and makes perfect sense. Driven by hormones.
Yeah, and that's driven by the biological urge to reproduce. I mean, this is evolution.
Yeah, and we don't teach humans about sexuality and the risks and the rewards. It's one of those things that's shameful, so let's put it over here. So it's a fertile ground for this kind of behavior.
Yeah, there was a period of time, actually, and I'd have to go back and think about exactly when it was, when a lot of schools were actually starting to teach as part of their health classes the kinds of things that you're talking about, Holly. About relationships, not just how does sexual reproduction work or what is menstruation or stuff like that, but going beyond that to power relationships and gender and sex, and most of that, or a lot of that, really the Republicans really came after that. I mean, this is the stuff that starting at least a decade ago with the Trump administration, but I think maybe even the Bush administration came after that kind of stuff as being woke, as you're just empowering women here, and we want a male-dominated society. But I'm with you. I get it. None of which excuses Eric Swalwell for what he's apparently done. Holly, thank you.
Not
for the call.
at all, and it's a big loss for the country too.
He
was very talented.
It is, because politically the guy was spot on. Yeah, he was. He really was. It's sad. Holly, thank you. It's 46 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where despair is not an option. We'll be right back. And welcome back, Jeff in Boulder. Hey, Jeff, what's up? Boulder, Colorado.
Hey, Tom. I was just thinking about the really good show with all the, seems like a lot of educating going on and all the different conversations and comments. The idea that, the old idea was, that historically, the historical view was that, that we were birthed by an eternal, transcendent, supernatural, interventionist being that we have named God or Jesus or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I declare, so be it. But the new notion, Tom, is, I think the new myth which is emerging is the notion that all of our gods and religions have been birthed through and by the human psyche and imagination. And of course, that's what Jung was studying, and he was researching, and through his clinical work, that was what a lot of what his work was about. Mm-hmm. And he said that the gods, since the Renaissance, the gods have fallen out of the sky. God has fallen out of the sky and into the human ego. And we are the ones. We're the ones that decide, and whether we're going to export our shadow and project it on other people, or whether we're going to import all our good. We'll import all our good qualities, all the good things about ourselves.
Yeah.
But we are the ones. It is within us. And I think that this is the cause and the creation of so much conflict and just, I don't know. But the education, Swalwell, he needed to be. It seemed like in one of his remarks, he'll start to get the education that he needs. And he is in desperate need of it. Yeah. But so is the entire society.
No, I get it, and your point's well taken. Jeff, thank you. Mike in Concrete, Washington. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, how are you doing, Tom?
Fine.
I was going to comment on the Antichrist stuff you guys were talking about, and I just wanted to, most of the predictions were warnings, so we don't let this happen. Mm-hmm. And I just want to quote just a couple things. Where the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Mm-hmm. I think Trump's got that one bad. Mm-hmm. It says entering the kingdom of heaven will be like threading a camel through a needle's eye. Doesn't look like he's going to make it.
Yeah, for a rich man, yep.
And I've read Nostradamus, Revelations, and other predictions from other people, but it was Isaac Newton's prediction that really got me, where he said, the Antichrist is born on a blood moon. You can look that one up, but the one that really got me the most was he called the Antichrist a fountain of lies. And I've never... Yeah.
What a perfect description of Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It fits into a T. And all I know is these predictions and stuff were warnings, so we do not let it happen.
I get it. Was Trump born on a blood moon?
Yeah, my wife looked it up.
Seriously?
I don't take my word. Yeah.
Holy cow. Holy cow. Mike, I got to run, but thanks for that little bit of data. 51 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. When I was a little kid, my grandmother had a piano and I loved to play it. I was incompetent, but I was figuring out all kinds of stuff. And then I kind of got away from it and, went to school and things got busy and just lost track of it. Well, now there's this fascinating new study out of the University of Geneva, Switzerland, that is making me think maybe I should go back and learn the piano. What they found was that they took a group of 132 healthy older adults, retired, 62 to 78 years old. Half of them learned the piano, half of them took music classes without learning the piano. And what they found was that those who learned the piano actually had the strongest increase in their memory, in their mental competence, their mental faculties. Those who took the music classes also did well, but learning the piano was a huge step. So check it out. There's a whole long rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. Welcome back. 52 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Sean in Britain, South Dakota. Hey, Sean, what's up?
Oh, well, Mike kind of stole my thunder there a little bit. I was going to talk about the same thing, prophecy being a warning, not what's absolutely going to happen in the
Isaac
future.
Newton and the blood moon?
I know. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I love your listeners. Today has been especially good. There have been so many things I wanted to comment on, but I think this one is kind of important. Mm-hmm. When I think about Trump as an antichrist, I think about Nostradamus' prophecies. He talked about 3 antichrists. And, two of them have supposedly been identified as Napoleon and Hitler. And when we look at the psychology of those 2 people and we compare them to Trump, Trump is just buddies with those guys.
Wow.
And we know he's a chaos agent. We know he lies. We know that he has a fetish about violence. He posted a woman's murder on one of his posts, a video post.
Yeah, being beaten to death with a hammer, and the whole thing. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, he glorifies that. Mary Trump talks about having gone to a party where he was at, and he told people she had serious problems with drugs, had been in rehab, and of course she never had. Mm-hmm. He just wanted to watch her squirm.
Wow.
So I think we need to take this Antichrist thing, maybe not dogmatically, but I think we need to take it seriously that this is a guy who threatens the annihilation of a civilization just so the whole world will be sitting on pins and needles wondering what he's going to do.
Right, just for the next day of his reality show.
Yeah, he's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I agree.
And, if you want to call Bandy Lee a prophet, be my guest.
Yeah, well, she said it on this program years ago. I mean, 8 years ago on this program, Bandy Lee was talking about Donald Trump. So,
I've been listening to her all this time and just wondering, what is wrong with the Republicans that they support and enable him? And we've gone through that before, but I think we need to take this threat of the potential violence that an antichrist could cause. I think we need to take that very seriously because he's so psychologically damaged, and I think he is evil.
Yeah, I get it. Sean, thank you. Well said. I would also apply that to Vladimir Putin. Michael in Taos, New Mexico. Hey, Michael, what's up?
Hey, I was listening to Trump's response to the Pope, and his explanation was the Pope didn't understand that if Iran got a nuclear weapon, they would kill hundreds of millions of people. And I kind of don't believe that. And I mean, I think that the Iranian theocracy is horrible, but so is Israel's. And I think most countries for the past 60 years have believed that the whole strategy of nuclear weapons is to have mutual destruction.
Right.
So maybe Iran would like to have a nuclear weapon just like Israel does for their own defense.
Or North Korea.
Yeah, for that matter.
Yeah, I think that Trump is starting this, taking Netanyahu's advice. Netanyahu has been pitching this since the 90s to American presidents, and he finally found one stupid enough to go along with it. I think his taking Netanyahu's advice has, empowered Putin, has thrown the world into crisis. It is just doing extraordinary damage. And then when the Pope points it out, Trump is like, I think what this has done is it has convinced the Iranians who were who signed the JCPOA, who were going along with this deal and saying, yes, inspectors are here. We've got the most comprehensive inspection scheme in history. They're not going to do that again. They may over the short term, but over the long term, they've got to be looking to get a nuclear weapon because they've learned the lesson of Kim Jong-un and Israel and other countries as well. I'm with you, Michael. Thank you for the call. Thank you for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us. That includes you. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the folks around you. Stay safe. Take your vitamins, get your exercise, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.